We'll just give everyone a few minutes to get into the meeting and we'll get started. Happy New Year, everyone. I'm Kyra Mann, CEO of MitoAction, and it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you to the 2025 MitoAction Town Meeting. Today, we come together to celebrate the extraordinary progress our community has achieved and to look ahead with hope, determination, and the power of collaboration that defines everything we do. Before we get started, I just want to take a moment to share our thoughts and prayers and support for the families and our community members living in California. The past few days have been beyond devastating, and we want you to know that we are here for you in whatever way you need us. Today's program will be recorded and will be available on the MitoAction website next week. Feel free to come back, rewatch, and share with others in the community. The past year has been filled with milestones that will shape the future for patients and families living with mitochondrial disease. Together, we've advanced critical initiatives, including the FDA Advisory Committee's recommendation to approve elimipritide, a true breakthrough for our community. This victory resulted from tireless teamwork, from families sharing their journeys, to the FDA listening sessions, to the AdCom meetings, and through working side by side with advocacy partners like the Barth Syndrome Foundation, who led this charge, along with the tireless work of our pharma partners. These moments remind us that when we join forces, we can change lives. Collaboration has been the cornerstone of our accomplishments. We are excited to share a new partnership at MitoAction with the Child Neurology Foundation through their National Social Services Network, which enhances our ability to provide access to financial assistance, travel support, and IEP guidance for families. We've also forged a relationship with Rare Patient Voice to empower the community to share their experiences while contributing to research and driving change in the rare disease space. MitoAction's commitment to equity and accessibility has also been amplified through our partnership with the Academy Foundation to translate our new patient kits into Spanish, and our partnership with the Chan Zuckerberg Foundation to launch a critical study to better understand the experience and unmet needs of patients of color affected by mitochondrial disease. We were honored to recently participate in the Racial Equity Institute to strengthen our leadership in advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion within our organization and beyond. 2024 was a year of support and connection for our community. 6 new families were selected for a once-in-a-lifetime Dolly Swish trip. Over 1,000 individuals, including patients, caregivers, and clinicians, received support through our Mito 411 support line. Over 120 children received gifts through Mito Santas during the Christmas holidays. We want to give a huge shout out to the family of Jennifer Schwartzoff, our program host, who recently passed away. Her family and volunteers ensured all families who applied received their gifts, and we will work closely with her family in 2025 to carry her legacy forward. In partnership with Rhonda Payne, who hosts our Syracuse Energy Walk, Liney's Levy initiative is now live, bringing comfort to Mito kiddos with a unique stuffed animal to help ease the stress of hospital visits and doctor's appointments. Our impact continues to grow as MitoAction was featured in a recent issue of Rare Revolution magazine, along with other members of the advocacy community, to increase awareness of our mission, programs, and the collaboration within the community to advance research, therapy development, and support of our community. Planning is underway for key events in 2025, including the International Metabolic Conference to be held in July at Detroit Country Day School in Michigan, and Boston Energy Walk will be returning to the Franklin Park Zoo in September. In Q2, we are excited to announce a new research initiative that will have a pivotal impact on our community. You'll hear more later in the program from members of the MitoAction team with specific details about some of the key programs for 2025. We know that none of this would be possible without the collective strength of our community. Today's meeting is about celebrating not only our shared successes, but also the resilience and determination of every patient, caregiver, researcher, and advocate here. We'll hear updates from so many of you about your achievements in 2024 and your aspirations for 2025. Together, we are driving therapy development forward, creating meaningful support systems, and ensuring that no family faces mitochondrial disease alone. Thank you for being here today and for all that you do. Let's make 2025 a year of continued progress and hope. So let's get started. First, I'd like to introduce to you Stephanie Harry, who is MitoAction's lead patient support coordinator, and she will be introducing all of our speakers today. Stephanie?
Thanks so much, Kyra. We're so excited to have Dr. Peter McGuire join us from the NIH. He's the head of the Metabolism, Infection, and Immunity section of the National Institute of Health. So without further ado, go ahead, Dr. McGuire.
Thank you very much, Stephanie, for that wonderful introduction. Thank you, Kyra, and everyone for having me here today. I want to wish everyone a happy New Year, happy 2025. And I'm going to share with you some of our findings over the past year or two and where we're going from there. So we study mitochondrial disease and viral infection because, as many people in the mitochondrial disease community know, viral infection can be a cause of decline, metabolic decompensation and decline, and even disease progression. Next slide. So we have a natural history study at the NIH, which many of you have participated in already. And it's a longitudinal natural history study, meaning that it goes on for years and years and years, because trying to understand patients with mitochondrial disease and the relationship with infection is something that requires time to understand. But we have learned many things since the induction of the study. So we have two main studies, one of which is the NIH mini study, which is at the NIH Clinical Center, and Dr. Eliza Gordon-Lipkin is the staff clinician for that study. She's a pediatric neurologist and neurodevelopmental specialist. And then we have our acute infection study, which is actually a home-based study. So in terms of enrolling in our studies, you can either come to the NIH or you can enroll from home, and we can try to understand what viruses children with mitochondrial disease have been exposed to. And through these two protocols, we want to understand essentially the infection history of that individual. We want to understand their immune function, and we want to understand any disability which may have resulted from viral infection. Next slide. So the monitoring of viral infections is ongoing. We did publish a study back during the pandemic, which got somewhat of a flavor of what types of viruses individuals with mitochondrial disease were actually exposed to. So these were children. And so in households, it was about 15 to 20 households that we looked at. Even during COVID, with all the social distancing and the hand washing and everything, there were more than 38 respiratory and GI viruses that were actually detected in those 15 to 20 families, which averaged out to be about 5 infections per child per year. So this was during 2020 and 2021 during the pandemic. 17 children experienced 34 episodes of illness, which resulted in 6 hospitalizations, and 5 patients had exacerbation of their neurologic disease. Also, individuals who had a higher IPMDS score tended to be hospitalized more often due to viral infection. Next slide. So what's the future of this? So COVID was a very special time, right? People had health behaviors which were a little bit different than they may be now. So we continue to assess viral exposures. Can you hit the next button? Over the year, to ask for our participants and any additional participants who want to join, what is the breadth of the viral exposome? So in other words, what are they actually being exposed to outside of the pandemic, outside of this kind of enhanced awareness and heightened awareness? And then we also want to try and pin down which viruses are directly associated with exacerbations of mitochondrial disease. And we can do that using a finger stick. So in other words, like testing your blood for blood glucose, that small drop of blood, we can actually determine what types of viruses your child with mitochondrial disease has been exposed to. And this can be done not only through the NIH mini study, but also via our home-based study. Next slide. So why do children with mitochondrial disease get so ill during viral infection? Well, there are many different reasons, but we think we found one particular reason in a study that we are in the midst of publishing. Next slide. So this has to do with mice because mice are easy to study for giving them infections. We can't give kids with mitochondrial disease infections because it's unethical and it's dangerous. So we can do this in mice. So we infect mice. This is a mouse model of Lee syndrome, so a severe form of mitochondrial disease. When we give them influenza A infection, you can see there on the left that actually they decrease their weight. And this is the pink. The pink is the knockout. So that's the mitochondrial disease mouse versus the wild type. So they decrease their weight much more and basically they get sicker. And that's also reflected by their clinical severity scores. Next slide. What is most interesting, though, is that their lifespan, the lifespan of these mice, is actually reduced by 7 to 10 days. So even after they have the infection, they clear the infection. This is what's called a survival curve. Even after they clear the infection, their lifespan is actually reduced by 7 to 10 days, indicating that there has been some disease progression as a result of infection. Next slide. So the reason for this is that mice actually have higher viral loads in their lungs. So in other words, they have more virus in their lung, the mouse with mitochondrial disease versus the mice that don't have mitochondrial disease. So you can see here, these bar graphs are showing how much virus we can actually pick up in the lungs of these mice. Next slide. And the reason for this actually has to do with the metabolic adaptations that occur in mitochondrial disease. So on the left, you see this very complicated pathway. The whole point of it is that when you have mitochondrial disease, you're going to burn more glucose because that's one of the few ways that you can actually make ATP. When you do that, when you use more glucose, you feed into this pathway of sialic acid. Sialic acid is expressed on the surface of cells, and this is the receptor for influenza. So therefore, the patients with mitochondrial disease and also the mice with mitochondrial disease have more receptors for influenza on the surface of their cells. And we're actually showing that in this nice microscopy picture. What you're looking at is the green. You want to see the green. And in the knockout mouse, which is down below, you can see much more green. So there's much more receptor for influenza. It turns out that this is not only the receptor for influenza, but also the receptor for a lot of other respiratory and GI viruses. So more receptor, more infection, you get sicker. Next slide. There we go. So what we're doing now, and you can hit the button again because something else will pop up. So what we're doing now from our patients who come to see us at the NIH Clinical Center is we're actually collecting respiratory epithelial cells by a nasal swab. This is not as difficult or annoying as the COVID-19 testing, which was really deep. This is very superficial. And we can take these cells and we can actually culture them and we can expose them to influenza. We can look at how much receptor for influenza is on there, the sialic acid, and then what happens when they actually get infected with influenza using patient models to better understand how we can potentially develop therapeutics to target this interaction specifically and reduce infection in children with mitochondrial disease. Next slide. Next. Yeah. So if you go to our website, you can see we have a number of studies going on. It's genome.gov/mini. Next slide. And this is a QR code for anyone who is interested or has a phone that they want to use. And I'd like to thank everyone for your participation in our study. And I'm more than happy to take questions. If you email me, if you go on the website, you can find our contact information. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. McGuire. We really appreciate you and all of your hard work that you do for our community. Next, we have from the POLG Foundation, Luca Bollinger, who's head of strategy. Welcome, Luca.
Thank you very much. Thank you, MitoAction, for having the POLG Foundation, and Happy New Year to everybody. So the POLG Foundation is a non-profit organization that is fully dedicated to finding effective treatment and hopefully a cure for POLG mitochondrial disorders. It was founded by a family whose son, whose name is Frederick, was diagnosed with POLG. And the foundation is driven by a deep personal commitment, as you can imagine, being you all involved in this type of diseases. And the ultimate scope is to improve the lives of individuals affected by this debilitating condition. Our mission articulates over 2 key points. The first one is to support and accelerate research into POLG mitochondrial disorders. And the second is to selectively provide resources and support to generate tools that facilitate the research of the POLG community. We have a number of key initiatives that we kicked off over the last couple of years. The first one is what we call the POLG toolbox. And this is, we think, a very valuable resource to offer researchers in the POLG field and to facilitate their scope in trying to find new drugs, but also to understand the biology of this terrible disease. As an example that we have and that we can provide to interested people are POLG iPSC cell lines. And this is a very interesting tool because these cells can be differentiated into different various cell types and tissues, and this allows a study of the disease in selective and specific tissues. The second addition that we add to our toolbox are different mouse models of POLG point mutations, including and spanning a number of POLG mutants, including a conditional POLG that is available. And in order to be able to achieve that, we collaborate with the JAX Institute, with the Institute Imagine in Paris, and the University of Padua. The second type of initiatives we kicked off is what we call research grants. So about a year and a half ago, we invested more than 3.5 million in 4 different projects. That's, you know, and those projects are worked out in different institutes around the globe. So the first grant is a grant that will help us in creating a variant to function map of POLG mutants via deep mutational scanning, and this is performed on the Broad Institute in Boston. The second project is what we call Target POLG. This is a project where POLG mechanism of action will be tested versus potential therapies, and this is performed at University of Helsinki. The third grant is a stem cell-based study to create a platform for drug discovery for POLG disease, and this is performed at the University of Bergen. And the grant number 4 is more a clinical that is performed at Newcastle University in collaboration with Tübingen in Germany. And here we try to define the new biomarkers and endpoints that can be used in monitoring POLG patients. For 2025, we plan to kick off a natural history study, so a prospective natural history study, so that we will have a benchmark for prospective drug development studies, and hopefully this will help in defining the benchmark and help developing new drugs for the POLG disorder. The impact that we want to have as a POLG Foundation is to play a crucial role in driving research and fostering the community of POLG researcher and clinical, obviously, because there are no solutions for the time being. And we also want to invest in tools and platforms that will help this research and accelerate it and facilitating their activities. What we also did, and in case you want to pimp up your style, Frederick designed a mitochondrial clothing line, so you can order a mitochondrial POLG branded clothing on our website, and obviously this will help us in continuing trying to funding our activities. So we really hope that you will join us fighting POLG, and please do visit our website and let us know if we can do something to work together and spread awareness about POLG mutants and hopefully having a near-term impact for these patients and their family. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Luca. We really, really appreciate all that you are doing for the POLG community, and thank you for the updates. It's amazing to hear the grants and the movement and the progress that's going on there. Next, we have Keith McIntire, Program Manager for Inform. Thank you so much for joining us, Keith.
Oh, and thank you for having me. I'm just going to jump right into it here and tell you a little bit about Inform. As Stephanie said, I'm the program manager for the International Network for Fatty Acid Oxidation Research and Management. And everything I talk to you about today can be found on our website, which is informnetwork.org. So first, I want to thank MitoAction for they have really become our arm to the patient community. And so thank you very much. And thank you for the conference that you held last year in Michigan. And again, this year, looking forward to that. Also, I wanted to thank Stephanie personally, because she has really put a lot of time into our Inform conference, which this year was held in cooperation with the SSIEM, the Society of Inborn Errors of Metabolism within Europe. And it was held in Porto, Portugal, where we had a nice breakout session with a lot of Portuguese and Spanish-speaking families. And it was quite a challenge, but it was also, I think, very well accepted and well attended. We had a total of about 133 participants at this year's conference, and over 20 of them were patients and their family members. And they were all represented. There was a representation of all those people of about 27 different countries. The family session that we did this year focused on nutrition and exercise. And many of you may know Pam Tucker. She's a doctor of physical therapy here at UPMC. And she did the exercise portion of it. And we were able to do it with her presenting in English and the interpreters then interpreting it for our Portuguese and Spanish families. Also, Ana Vieira, who is from Portugal, she's a clinical dietitian, and she is also an author and has written a book entitled 25 Nutritional Errors in Children and How to Avoid Them. And this book was written mainly for parents and for grandparents. So if you're interested in taking a look at that, again, it's 25 Nutritional Errors in Children and How to Avoid Them. We hoped this year to do the same or very similar family session at Inform, and that will be, we have been invited by the ICIEM, and that conference will be held in Kyoto, Japan, and our days are August 31st and September 1st. One of the final sessions that we did this year at Inform was to get the families back into the main conference room and involved was on anesthesia and post-operative care and clinical practice. Actually, one of Dr. Vockley's patients, Tasia Racheski, was presented along with her research coordinator, Elizabeth McCracken, and they talked about the patient perspectives regarding clinical trials. I just want to direct you to our patient and family section on our Inform website. You can go out there and you can send your patients out there and their families, and they can find information on clinical trials. There's a clinical trial questionnaire. There's a research registry. And also they're going to see that there's an MCAD clinical trial, which will be happening soon, starting soon, should I say. We're hoping by the end of February, that'll be up and running. And we are currently looking for patients who are 10 years and older who'd be interested in that clinical trial. So we highly encourage you to share that information. Also, we ask you to share the information of our website and encourage patients and their families to go to our Ask the expert section, where they can pose their questions, and 99.9% of them are answered by Dr. Jerry Vockley, and we usually gets back to within 24 to 48 hours. So they have pretty quick answers, and then we post all the answers, questions and answers on the site to share with others. Also, I wanted to share with you the University of Pittsburgh congratulated, and also we did, Dr. Vockley, who was invited and has joined the FDA's Genetic Metabolic Disease Advisory Committee. This panel is comprised of a small number of voting positions that approve new drug applications in rare disease. So the decisions made among the members of this extraordinarily important, and will have a significant and a positive impact on our patients and their diseases. Also recognized was a paper that was written, and it was research done by Dr. Vockley and 15 other members of the team on mitochondrial bioenergetics and cardiomyopathy remodeling abnormalities and mitochondrial trifunction protein deficiency. And again, all of these can be found on our homepage, informnetwork.org. Lastly, I wanted to share with you our lecture series, which is starting this month. Our lecture series begins, the first one is on January 27th, and then February 24th, March 31st, April 28th, May 19th, and June 23rd. Again, you can find all those and the speakers. Many of them presented at Inform this year in Portugal, so and some didn't. So there'll be some newer information, and you'll be able to please join us if you're interested. All those lectures start at 11 o'clock. They run for 1 hour. We try to have at least 2 speakers each time. And if anybody's interested or would like to share the information, please send me an email, and I will get you on the email list if you're not already on it. And then I wanted just to introduce you or tell you we have a new member of our Inform team joined last year, Dr. Kimiyoshi from Japan. He's the chair and professor of the Department of Pediatrics at Jikeia University School of Medicine in Tokyo. And he's the vice chair of the Japanese Society of Inborn Metabolic Diseases. And we're excited to have him on our board now, as we, especially moving into our conference being held in Kyoto. So thank you very much. And if you have any questions, please send them to me. You can find my email address on the informnetwork.org website.
Thank you so much, Keith. We really appreciate you and all the hard work that you do in putting Inform on and all the organization that goes behind that. So thank you so much. Next, we have Stealth BioTherapeutics. Katie Landis, who is the Executive Director and Head of Patient Advocacy and Government Affairs, is joining us. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Stephanie, and thank you to the whole MitoAction team for having me today and for the chance to provide an update. Just a little bit of background on Stealth BioTherapeutics. We are a biotechnology company with a mission to develop therapies to treat serious diseases of mitochondrial dysfunction. We're really focused on diseases of high unmet need. And as we sit here today, there are no approved therapies for any genetic mitochondrial diseases. So for today's purposes, I wanted to provide an update on 1, our Barth syndrome development program, and 2, our primary mitochondrial myopathy development program. In terms of Barth syndrome, we've been developing elimipretide for the treatment of Barth syndrome for around a decade. In 2024, we had a few exciting milestones. We submitted our new drug application, or NDA, for elimipretide for the treatment of Barth syndrome, which was accepted by the FDA and is currently under FDA review. I wanted to highlight a few key points. One was the advisory committee meeting for Barth syndrome that took place in October 2024. A nice segue from Keith's conversation about the importance of advisory committee meetings. Just wanted to take a moment to thank Kyra, Susie, and all the members of the MitoAction community for their support, their attendance, and for the members of the community who shared their stories and comments on the public docket. I think it was a quite important moment for the patient voice. Second, thing I would love to highlight about the Bar Syndrome Development Program is the importance of natural history. It was a key part of our trial design. And so again, I want to take a moment to thank all the patients and families who participate in these efforts through registries, et cetera, because they are crucial components of regulatory development. And finally, with the Bar Syndrome Development Program, I wanted to highlight our PDUFA or FDA action date, which is at the end of this month in less than 3 weeks on January 29th, 2025. It's a big milestone that we are looking forward to. On the nuclear PMM side, I think over here, the overall message is learning from previous trials. Stealth BioTherapeutics had an MPower phase 3 trial. That was the largest phase 3 mitochondrial myopathy trial. Ultimately, the primary endpoints were not met in that trial on the intent to treat population, which was attributed primarily to the heterogeneity of the disease presentations across different genetic mutations. Based on our learnings from that, we designed a phase 3 new power trial. The new power trial is fully enrolled with patients with primary mitochondrial myopathy due to nuclear DNA mutations. It's a 48-week randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trial with 32 sites, nearly 90 patients participating with a primary endpoint of 6-minute walk test. The results from that are expected in Q1 of this year. So just to conclude my section, I wanted to talk about our 2025 milestones. We have a BARTH PDUFA date in less than 3 weeks. We have nuclear PMM top-line results expected from the phase 3 new power trial in Q1. And I just wanted to take a moment to thank all of the patients, caregivers, the families, and investigators who have participated in our trials. We know it is an immense commitment and really appreciate you. Thank you, MitoAction team, for having me.
Thank you so much, Katie, and thank you for the update. Next, we have Metabolic Support UK, Toni Mees, who is the community lead. Thank you so much for joining us today, Toni.
Hi, Stephanie. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's lovely to see you all. I just said my name's Toni Mees, and just thank you for the opportunity, I suppose, to come and share a little bit about ourselves and the work we've been doing. So Metabolic Support UK, for anyone who doesn't know, are the UK's leading umbrella organisation, providing support around the world for all of the 1,500 plus inherited metabolic disorders. And in that, we provide free confidential support on a whole range of topics, from the emotional support to information about benefits, education, employment, disorder information and beyond. We focus on building communities, we host events, we run campaigns, gather insights, feed into HTA medicine assessments and policy, and much, much more. Throughout it all, advocating for and with the IMD community. So as an umbrella organisation, for conditions that have a dedicated disorder-specific group, for conditions without a dedicated disorder-specific group, we offer that direct support. And for those of existing groups, we will always signpost to and endeavour to work with those existing organisations. A really fantastic example of this, in the context of why we're all here today, is the Lilly Foundation in the UK, a wonderful organisation that provides that specialist support for the Mito community. And we're really proud to have worked alongside them for many years now. Under this umbrella organisation structure, for most of our Mito conditions, we do signpost to the Lilly Foundation for anyone who's seeking support or looking to make a connection, or to other wonderful international Mito organisations where it's more appropriate. And on the other side of that, we have conditions like the long-chain fatty acid oxidation disorders, the LCFADs, where we do act as that dedicated support organisation. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about the work that we are currently undertaking with the LCFAD community. As some of you may know, triheptanoin, also known as Dojolvi or C7, isn't available in the UK at the moment, but the process to make it available has begun, and as part of this, we're working with the community to gather vital insights to inform this assessment. We currently have a survey where anyone living with or caring for anyone living with an LCFAD can share their experiences, which in turn helps us to share their voices and represent the community during this assessment process. I think it's already been shared in the chat. I think I saw it pop up, so that's fantastic. Just a note about it that anyone, anywhere in the world with experience of living with or caring for someone living with an LCFAD can fill in this survey. And we really do appreciate anybody who does take the time to take a look and consider helping us, because your perspectives are vital in hopefully helping us get this treatment approved in the UK. Alongside the condition-specific work, much like this, we do a lot of campaigns, working group projects that support the broader IMD community as a whole. So I just want to tell you a bit about a couple of projects that have been kind of key to us recently. So in 2023 through to 2024, we undertook our first qualitative research project into what living well or quality of life means to the IMD community. As I'm sure lots of people on the call know, that quality of life measures are often used to make decisions, but we wanted to know if the given metrics match what the community's views are and what impacts their quality of life. This research was called Thoughts into Action, and it showed us that whilst healthcare and treatments are important to our community, there's a myriad of other areas that are key to the community living well today. Our community told us that access to education, joy, employment, and a positive identity are all vital to them living well, which has led to us now to our Living Well movement, which we're kicking off for 2025. As we've heard today, and I'm sure we will hear throughout the rest of this meeting, there are a lot of developments always happening, and treatment access is incredibly important. But in a landscape where currently only 5% of rare conditions have access to an available or in development treatment, kind of asking the question, how are we empowering and supporting our communities to live well today alongside these treatment developments? We'll be further shaping these conversations around how we embed living well into our society, our laws and our policy in our upcoming Living Well Symposium on the 7th of March in the UK in Stoke-on-Trent. Registration is open, so for anyone UK based or anyone who fancies an excuse to come visit the UK, we'd definitely love to see you there. I believe all of those links will have been shared throughout and will be shared afterwards. If there's anything I've mentioned today that you want to get involved in, you want to hear more about, if we can offer any support or if we can work together to support the Mito community and beyond, then please do reach out. I'm hoping my email address will also be shared somewhere in there. But yeah, all else fails, we have a general contact email and someone from the team will pick it up. But yeah, there's a whistle stop tour. I talk very fast when I'm nervous, so I hope that the northern accent managed to get through.
No, your accent is lovely. We really appreciate everything that you shared, and it's so wonderful to be connected with you and the wonderful work that you guys are doing in the UK. So thanks again for joining us. And up next, we are excited to introduce IVD Solutions and Matthew DiCerbo. He's a quality engineer, and I had the pleasure of meeting him this summer at the FAOD conference, and I just really appreciate all of your work that you're doing for the FAOD community and beyond. So thanks for joining us, Matthew.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. You can see my screen right in the background. I don't know. Can you see that? Yeah. All right. Cool. Hey guys, so my name is Matt DiCerbo, and I'm presenting on behalf of IVDS, or In Vitro Diagnostic Solutions. So we were founded in 2017 by our CEO, Robert Harper, and at IVDS, we develop point-of-care diagnostic platforms. They're designed to provide rapid, reliable, and low-cost testing for rare metabolic diseases. And our core mission is to empower both patients and healthcare providers with accessible tools for improved care management, especially in underserved populations where solutions could have the most impact. So we're working on what we have, a CPK Now meter. So if you look, I think in the background, you can see we have the CPK Now rendering of the meter. Let me just make sure you can see it. Yeah, so it should be up there. That's the rendering of the meter. The platform is over here. So it consists of a portable handheld reflectance-based meter and test strips. There's a Lancet to acquire 20 microliters of blood. And the CPK Now is a platform that's intended to measure the values of CPK in patients with LCFAODs. So it's the first point of care test designed for real determination of creatine phosphokinase. And that is a critical biomarker for muscle damage and metabolic conditions, as you guys are well aware. So we just applied for a phase 2 grant when we went to the conference in July, and we heard back in about November. We did a resubmission of a phase 2 because there were some critiques the reviewers wanted us to address. So we addressed those critiques, and we're going to hear back from them very soon. So in phase 1, we finalized the CPK detection formulation. We conducted analytical validation of our membranes for the test strips, and then we eliminated hematocrit bias in the range or the relevant range. And then we were able to confirm concordance between our CPK Now meter and the reference method using patient samples. And a major technical innovation of our platform is a blood separation membrane. that essentially allows the test strip to change colors based on the amount of CPK in that blood sample. In our phase 2 application, which we just submitted, as I said, we're going to aim to scale production. We're going to go through compliance testing and a regulatory submission, hopefully at the end of our phase 2. In the phase 2, we're going to be conducting 3 clinical studies, one at Mount Sinai, one at UCLA, and one at UPMC. So we're going to tackle the East Coast and West Coast, and we're going to enroll patients where the universities that have the hospitals here are going to enroll patients. And if you're interested in that, or somebody that's interested in that, you guys can always sign up at on our website, ivds.solutions. So we're going to focus on the data analysis from those sites and use that data to submit to the FDA for submission. And right now, our current manufacturing process includes at the site, we have test strip coating and assembly. We have quality control testing and continuing our verification studies on the chemistry. And then we have a 2,000 square feet facility and a 300 square foot dry room to precisely control environmental conditions such as humidity and temperature to ensure our test strips are produced to standards. And as we prepare for the FDA submission, our production team is ensuring that all the data that we're going to send out for clinical studies and for the submission is validated for accuracy, repeatability, and compliance. And then as we move forward with CPK, we encourage everybody to stay connected with us. And if you're interested in receiving updates, as I said, you just sign up on our website. We're going to try to make all the conferences again this year, like we tried to do last year. IVDS is getting very busy, but we definitely want to be a part of the team with you guys and all the patients and the leaders in the field.
Thank you so much, Matthew, and thank you for your dedication to the FAOD community and so many other communities. You guys are doing brilliant work, and we appreciate all of your efforts. Next, we have Khondrion with Dr. Jan Smeitink, and I apologize if I mispronounced your name, Jan, but I do so appreciate your work and so appreciate the research that you're doing for our community, and I'm really excited to hear your updates.
Okay, thanks very much. Good evening from the Netherlands and Happy New Year to everyone. My name is Jan Smeitink, that's how it is pronounced, and I'm the CEO of Khondrion. I'm thrilled to join today's MitoAction Mito Town Meeting and share the remarkable progress we've made at Khondrion, along with our exciting plans for 25. As 25 begins, we reflect on a transformative 2024, a year of significant milestones that have brought us closer to delivering therapies that can truly change the lives of people living with primary mitochondrial disease. And none of this progress would have been possible without the support of patients, families, clinicians, foundations, and partners. In November, we celebrated 2 major achievements. First, the FDA approved our investigational new drug application for sonnecriminol, paving the way for a phase 3 trial in the US. And this is a critical step toward bringing this innovative therapy to patients. Second, results from our phase 2b trial were published in Brain, highlighting sonnecriminol's potential to reduce chronic fatigue and muscle weakness, improve mood, and decrease pain, addressing several of the burdensome symptoms of patients with primary mitochondrial disease. And these findings demonstrate sonnecriminol's unique triple mode of action, restoring cellular metabolism, preventing cell death, and reducing inflammation. And this innovative approach provides hope for meaningful change in patients' life. Another highlight of 2024 was our strategic partnership with the UMDF and the Mito Fund. Their support strengthens our ability to advance sonnecriminol and reflects growing confidence in its potential to transform outcomes for patients. Our commitment to mitochondrial medicine extends to children who face unique and urgent challenges. Trials in children require careful design to ensure safety and efficacy, but we remain dedicated to overcoming these complexities. We are preparing new trials to specific conditions like Leigh syndrome, a devastating disorder affecting many young patients. And by focusing on these areas, we aim to expand our impact and bring meaningful therapies to more patients and families. Looking ahead, 2025 will be pivotal as we launch a 52-week global phase 3 trial of sonicriminol, enrolling patients worldwide. And this marks an important step toward regulatory submissions and delivering this therapy to those who need it most. Additionally, we are exploring new opportunities in mitochondrial medicine to build a pipeline of impactful therapies, ensuring hope remains central to all we do. I want to express my deepest gratitude to everyone who has supported Khondrion's vision so far, to the patients and families who inspire us, the clinicians and researchers who guide us, and the partners who work alongside us. Thank you. Your contribution and belief in our work make all the difference. We are excited for the year ahead and look forward to keeping you updated on our progress. And to learn more, please visit our website, www.khondrion.com. Thank you for your time and attention today. Let's move forward into 2025 with hope, determination, and the promise of a brighter future for those living with mitochondrial disease. Thank you very much.
Dr. Smeitink, thank you so much for all of your hard work, and thank you so much for this update. I know it's so exciting. Patients from all over the world are talking about this project and the progress that you've made. And so just again, thank you so much, and thank you for the update. And we look forward to continuing to connect with you and being able to update our patient and clinical community. Up next, we have the United Mitochondrial Disease Foundation. Margaret Moore, Associate Director of Support and Education, is joining us.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, MitoAction, for inviting us. We look forward to the town hall each year. I am Margaret Moore, the Associate Director of Support and Education for the United Mitochondrial Disease Foundation. For those of you that don't know us, UMDF for short. And I have some big news. If you have been looking at your emails over the last couple of hours, you should have received an email announcing that Kristen Clifford will be joining the UMDF team as our president and CEO. Kristen comes with a wealth of pertinent nonprofit experience, and we can't wait to see what she will help us do to move the mito community forward. She starts next Monday, and so some of you may hear from her in the upcoming weeks. Next slide, please. Lots of things are happening. We're going to start with our support and education updates. One of our largest educational initiatives, is Mitochondrial Medicine 2025, the UMDF National Conference. So I want you to save the dates for June 18th to the 21st. It's going to be in St. Louis this year. It's an amazing event where scientists, researchers, clinicians, and families come together to learn and share. We'll have some special sessions targeted to clinicians on Thursday morning and Saturday morning, and we will have some limited clinician travel scholarships this year. So stay tuned for more information on that. For our patients and families, please keep an eye on your emails and check our Facebook pages, as we'll be launching our conference scholarships soon. And please be aware that we will be beginning our family program on Thursday, so you'll want to get there early if you're making any travel arrangements. We will be hosting the Clinical Research Pavilion again, which is a great opportunity for patient families to participate in important research right on site. This program continues to grow, and I can't wait for you to hear about some of the new things that will be there this year. The website for the conference is www.umdfconference.org. In 2025, our monthly patient education series, Ask the Mito Doc, will continue to bring you world-class speakers on a variety of topics. We have implemented disease-specific talks this past year, and we'll continue that in 2025. As a matter of fact, next week on Wednesday, we will be focusing on CPEO, and in February, we'll discuss KSS. So please join us.
But also know that if you can't join us, you can find the recordings of all of our Ask the Mito Doc talks on our YouTube channel. The easiest way to find it is to go to umdf.org and just click the YouTube icon. And there's a playlist of all of our Ask the Mito Doc programming that has happened over the past years. I did a little research in getting ready for today, and our Ask the Mito Doc program recordings have been viewed just for 2024 have been viewed almost 3,000 times. That's a lot of learning, and we're really excited to be able to bring that enduring material to our patient community. Our monthly clinician education series, Bench to Bedside, will also continue. This month, actually, on Monday, we'll be inviting our patient community as we review clinical trials focused on meal loss. You can visit umdf.org/events to learn more about that. Every month, we offer nearly 20 support groups, both virtual and in person. Please join us, and please stay tuned for a few new and exciting groups that will begin in the spring. You can always check our calendar. Again, that's umdf.org/events. Our support ambassador program is as busy as ever, and our support ambassadors have worked with over 100 families this year. Our support concierge program has provided comprehensive bespoke assistance to over 1,700 families. Next slide. Now I'm going to move on a little bit to talk about some of our science and alliance programs. MitoShare, the patient registry, now has over 2,100 participants, so it has grown and grown and grown over the years. And currently there are 8 surveys for our patient families to participate in. We also have an active non-drug related research study page that highlights other ways that people can get involved in clinical research. We have 3 of those that are active right now for our caregivers and patients, and you can find that at umdf.org/research. Our no-cost genetic testing program has just ended, and it was a huge success. More than 100 people got no-cost testing, and we're hoping to announce a new program in the coming months. I encourage everyone to visit our clinical trials page. There's some pretty interesting tools there, ways to see what kind of disorders are covered by which clinical trials, and it's a great way to learn about clinical trials. We have also started a clinical trial readiness group for our patient community in 2024. Moving on to advocacy next, I want to talk about some of the different advocacy work that we'll be doing as we move into 2025. So at this moment, we're waiting for the new Congress to settle in. And once they do, we're going to be working on the Medicare Telehealth Extensions Act with a 2-year extension for pandemic era flexibilities, allowing our patients to continue receiving care via telehealth at home. We will be working towards the pediatric priority review voucher reauthorization, which would extend the FDA's authority to issue this through 2029, which incentivizes the development of treatments for rare pediatric diseases, and the Accelerating Kids Access to Care Act, which is a bill that kind of works on eliminating some of the administrative barriers that get in the way of Medicaid patients accessing essential care. If you haven't signed up to be an advocate, please do. You can do that at umdf.org/advocacy. The more voices we have, the stronger we are, and we're dedicated to moving these things forward. And so lastly, I want to talk a little bit about events. Our Energy for Life walkathons are a signature event that we host every year. We have 18 of them in 18 cities across the US. We're confirming our dates for spring already. If you haven't ever attended an Energy for Life walk, I encourage you to. They're just wonderful events, and they really bring us together as a community. I always leave them feeling motivated and just grateful for the Mito patients that we serve. I also want to let everybody know that UMDF has a charity team for the Bank of America Chicago Marathon. The event's going to be held on October 12th, 2025, and we still have a few spaces left. So if you're interested in participating on UMDF's Team Activate for 2025, you can contact one of UMDF's development coordinators, Angie Summer. She can be reached at angela.summer@umdf.org. In closing, let's make 2025 a year of unity, empowerment, and magic for our Mito community. And we hope to see you in St. Louis.
Thanks so much, Margaret. I appreciate you taking the time and joining us for this collaborative event. Next, we have Dr. Richard Boles with mitochondrial molecular medicine. Dr. Boles is a medical geneticist and pediatrician. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Boles.
There we are. You're welcome. Greetings from Pasadena, California. Oh, that's where my house is, and it's safe, but the air is toxic, so I'm actually doing this from the beach, where it's nice. My main thing is to look at mitochondrial dysfunction. I look at it in primary mitochondrial disorders, but my major focus is looking at symptoms in common disorders such as autism, chronic fatigue syndrome, cyclic vomiting, migraine, and other things. And that information to try to help a broader population of people that have mitochondrial dysfunction, but it also helps people with primary mitochondrial disorders that many of them have those same symptoms. So lately I've been doing a lot more in chronic fatigue syndrome and also in MCAS, mast cell activation syndrome. Some patients with mitochondrial disease that I've seen for many decades, they can't tolerate a lot of different foods. Sometimes they can't tolerate different medications, and they also can't tolerate scents like candles or ammonia from cleaning fluids, etc. That can be another thing in addition to fatigue and headache and everything else that you can get in mitochondrial dysfunction. You can get mast cell activation problems, and there are treatments for that. So if people have that and it's not diagnosed, that may be something that they want to look into. And molecularly, it does show that there's a lot of ion channel abnormalities in that, and that causes secondary mitochondrial dysfunction. Other thing that I do in addition to seeing patients 4 days a week by telemedicine around the world is I'm also the Chief Medical and Scientific Officer of NeuroNeeds, which makes natural dietary supplements for patients with all sorts of neurological problems. We mostly focus on mitochondrial dysfunction, but we also focus on cation problems, channelopathy, neurotransmitter, and neuroinflammation. But the mitochondrial is the main thing that we focus on. I have good news in that it just came out. It's already submitted for publication with Dr. Richard Fry as the first author. It's the last author. He's the PI. A paper on spectrum needs, which is our mitochondrial supplement, and a type of coenzyme Q10, ubiquinol, that's highly bioavailable. That the two of those together, 34 different ingredients and all of that, in a double-blind, placebo-controlled crossover study. So this is the main type of study that everyone talks about. It was very highly efficacious in autism. Patients with autism, it's a small study, but they showed improvements in cognition, in social interaction, in behavior, and particularly in parental stress went way down on that. And again, this was placebo controlled, and nobody knew if they were getting the placebo or the actual product. It also showed significant changes in mitochondrial function that Dr. Fry did on the seahorse. The main thing it showed is resilience to oxidative stress. She put different chemicals in there to make the mitochondria stressed, and the ones that were on the product, their mitochondria did very well. The ones that were not on the product, their mitochondria did quite poorly, and there was huge differences there, also mitoswab differences. The last thing I want to talk about is that, we are going for the federal government to get phase 2 study to be able to look at that in a much larger number of people so that we can get insurance companies and government payers to pay for the supplements, which I know in the community is a major problem. You need to have government approval to be able to have a payment so you don't have to pay it yourself. And so we're working on that actively. In fact, just earlier today, I had a call regarding that. Other thing I want to talk about is that the vast majority of the products that we make are for the kids, and the kids can be grown-ups. But we made a new product called Active Needs, which is for us. For those of us that either have, because they have the mitochondrial mutation themselves, or just taking care of a kid with mitochondrial dysfunction, can be very difficult in terms of focus and mood and particularly energy. So Active Needs is 55 active ingredients. It has everything an energy needs has in it. Hits the mitochondria really hard, but there's many other things that I put in there to try to extend aging. Things like resveratrol and nicotinamide riboside and ashwagandha and several other things that are known to slow down the aging process. So I have a lot of families that the parents are taking that. I love it. I take it myself. It honestly makes me feel 20 years younger. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much, Dr. Boles. It's wonderful to hear your update, and I'm really curious about this double-blinded placebo study that you're having published. So thanks again for joining us
hopefully
today.
it'll be out really fast. It's actually a preprint is already out. Dr. Fry put that on. It's neuroneeds.com if you're interested.
Wonderful, wonderful. Next, we have with us Cristy Balcells, who's the Global Patient Engagement with UCB, and Susan VanMeter, who is a doctor and also TK2D clinical program physician for UCB. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited to have you.
Hi, everybody. Happy New Year. Thank you, Stephanie and Kyra and the MitoAction team for always hosting us. I'm going to hand it to Susan in a moment to talk about the TK2D clinical program, but I just wanted to take a moment to first and foremost thank all of the patients and caregivers and families in the Mito community, and also ask for any TK2D patients and caregivers who are interested in connecting. We'd love to connect with you. We have a number of opportunities right now to do a focus group or some disease awareness activities for Rare Disease Day and for TK2D awareness that we'd love to get connected with you and get involved. So you can either reach out to anybody on the MitoAction team and they could connect you to me, or you could reach out to me directly. I'll drop my email in the chat. Without the support of the patient community, we would not be where we are today. And so we've achieved a number of milestones in the last year and a half, really with deep thanks to the involvement of the patient community, from TK2D Awareness Day around the world to the success of the human factors study with the mitochondrial patients and caregivers to engage and support us with the FDA, which I will let Susan provide more of an update about. So Susan VanMeter is my colleague at UCB, and she is the TK2D program physician. So I'll hand it to you, Susan.
Thank you, Cristy, and thank you, Stephanie and MitoAction, for allowing us to come and give this update. Cristy and I are part of a huge team at UCB working on developing a treatment for TK2D. And as Cristy alluded to, we've made several great leaps forward in the past year. One of the big pieces that we were working on is what's called a human factors study, which is a big fancy name for understanding if patients can use a device. So our drug is a powder that needs to be reconstituted in water, and there's specific ways of mixing it together. So UCB developed a device, and for anybody that does develop a device, you have to show that patients are able to understand the instructions on how to use it. Because we needed patients or people with mitochondrial disease, we reached out to the mitochondrial disease community, and you all really responded. Without you, we literally would not have been able to complete this study. And this was a critical step in our work to get this drug submitted and approved. Some of the other work that has been ongoing is working on data dissemination. So, as several of the other speakers have talked about, we're working on manuscripts that will be, excuse me, coming out this year to describe the data in our program. This is a very unique program. The data package that we have put together uses all available data in this ultra-rare disease. So we have information on patients from the literature that actually serve as an external control group for our clinical data, understanding survival benefit. We also have put together all the information we have to help outline the natural history of the disease. So, being able to show that this is a truly progressive disease, which you all know, but it's our responsibility as a company to demonstrate that to the regulatory agencies. We've been able to do that with the data we've been gathering. So it's a combination of real world data and clinical open label clinical data that's allowed us to get to a point of submission. We continue, as Cristy said, to support the TK2D community. We have compassionate use programs that are available. We actually have one that is sponsored by UCB in the United States and a couple of other countries, and then also a compassionate use that physicians can request for their patients, that we supply the drug, but we don't actually sponsor the study. So UCB remains very committed to the TK2D space. We look forward to being able to share the data at UMDF and some other venues. And again, just thank you to the people with TK2D and the caregivers and families that have been working with us on this journey.
Thank you so much, Dr. VanMeter, and thank you so much, Cristy. We really appreciate all of your efforts in working with the TK2D community. I always pause because it's a tongue twister for me, but I really appreciate your hard work and efforts and your willingness to keep us up to speed and all that you're doing with the patients. So thank you, and we look forward to hearing more as things progress soon. Your work is very exciting. Up next, we have Gordon Freeman, who's the co-founder of MitoWorld, joining us. Thank you for joining us today, Gordon. You're muted, Gordon. There you go.
I'm an adult mitochondrial myopathy patient who, once I figured out I wasn't in deep trouble, got really upset that mitochondria is not better known across the world. And so our website, MitoWorld.org, is devoted to looking at mitochondria across the lifespan and bringing together the research community and clinical community that, again, is looking at things from mutational diseases to diseases of aging and so forth. And I'm particularly interested in the work in MitoAction and in other childhood diseases because we're going to be looking for money to map the various genetic diseases and other diseases onto a larger chart of mitochondrial medicine and biology. So we're working really at the large scale level to be able to see. I mean, the failure in my mind is that the basic biology community, research community, still doesn't really look at mitochondria as a serious part of the cell. And so that has to change. So our job is really advocacy for the mitochondria being in medicine and research very, very broadly. And we work with lots of the research labs around the world. My hope in the future for MitoAction, UMDF, and anybody else working in these areas is that there would be an exchange between what we know about individual mutational diseases and what we know about general conditions. And Dr. Boles, I just went ahead and ordered my spectrum needs, so maybe it'll cut down on the amount of pills I have to take a day. So, all right, that's it for me.
Thank you so much, Gordon, and thank you for joining us today. And we hope that you're staying safe in California. Up next,
yep.
yeah, we're thinking of you.
Okay, thanks.
Up next is Ultragenyx Pharmaceutical. We have Belen, Gonzalez, Sutil. She's the Director of Patient Advocacy. Thank you so much for joining us today, Belen.
Thank you, Stephanie. Well, thank you for the invitation to provide the MitoAction community with updates regarding news and information for individuals living with LCFOD and their families. I am really grateful for the partnership with MitoAction and look forward to another year of working together. The individuals living with LCFOD and their families, particularly the Patient Leadership Council, directly impact the topics Ultragenyx is actively studying or will soon study, as well as the educational tools and resources that we develop. These learnings and insights have developed to drive the important updates that we'll share today. Updates are organized in two specific areas. The first one, we have the progress and the status of our LCFOD research program, the DMP, the Disease Monitoring Program. The DMP, as you may be aware, is a long-term prospective outcome study aiming to collect information for up to 10 years from adult and pediatric patients with LCFOD. The overarching goals of the DMP is first, to establish the natural history and progression of LCFOD. Second, to understand the burden of LCFOD for patients and caregivers, and to assess the long-term safety and effectiveness of treatments in patients with LCFOD. Participants can be on any treatment. As of October 2024, we had a total of 92 people enrolled in our DMP. Currently, we have 14 sites open to enrollment in the US and in Canada. You can learn more information on our clinicaltrials.gov, and we also recommend you to stay in touch with your healthcare team to discuss any existing or future research opportunities. And second, we are going to talk about the MCAT Adult and Caregiver Burden of Illness surveys. We are conducting a patient and caregiver focused survey to better understand the experiences of adult patients living with MCAD and caregivers of pediatric patients living with MCAD. Last December, we started recruiting for the survey within the US and Canada, and we are possibly considering to extend this into Europe in 2025. Our goal is to collect information from at least 100 respondents to be available online on fall 2025. Thank you for your interest and attention. We really value the open dialogue with LCFOD individuals and their families. You can all connect with us via our website. It's www.ultrarareadvocacy.com, where you can sign up for our Ultragenyx Patient Advocacy newsletter. We also have our Facebook for additional information and engagement opportunities. If you have any questions, please always contact patientadvocacy@ultragenyx.com. We look forward to working with MitoAction and the LCFOD community during 2025. We wish everyone a safe and healthy new year. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Belen. We really, really appreciate all of your hard work and dedication to the FAOD community and all that Ultragenyx has done over the years. Thanks for giving us an update and joining us today. Next, we have Cure ARS. Ashley Rowland, who's co-founder, and Desiree Maggi, who's also the founder, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, just correct it. I really appreciate you guys joining us today and giving us your updates and all of the exciting work that you're doing at Cure ARS.
Thank you, Stephanie. Hi, everyone. My name is Ashley Rowland, and I am the co-founder of Cure ARS, as well as a parent. I am based in New Jersey. Cure ARS is funding research and supporting families affected by the mitochondrial amino acyl tRNA synthetase genes. That's a big mouthful, but for short, it's MTARS. There are 19 MTARS genes that all cause mitochondrial disease. My 6-year-old daughter, Aubrey, is affected by the gene AARS2. We currently are volunteer-based, and I also have a full-time job as a clinical trial manager at IQVIA Biotech.
Hi, everyone, and sorry for my voice. I am dealing with a cold, but my name is Desiree Maggi, and I'm the other co-founder of Cure ARS. I'm based in California, in Orange County, so far away from all the fires, but my 9-year-old is Daphne. She has the EARS2 gene, and I also have a full-time job as a contracts manager for Framatome. Next slide.
So we have a few research programs going on at the moment. We have a current We have a patient registry called CureARS MATS registry that is launching in the spring of 2025 in collaboration with NORD on the IAMRARE platform. And we have developed several disease models for the genes in zebrafish and C. elegans worms at CHOP. We have an ongoing drug repurposing project that is planned to complete in October 2025. It was a 3-year project. And we have an ongoing biomarker project with the Children's Hospital of Colorado in collaboration with the University of Melbourne. You can go to the next slide.
So we are very excited to announce that we are recipients of the CZI Rare is 1 grant for cycle 3, and we also received a research readiness grant through Global Genes this year, or sorry, 2024. We also have funded over $200,000 in our current research projects just in 2024 alone. We continue to support over 300 families in more than 33 countries. And we have hosted several fundraising events, including our Run for Rare 5K and our Golf Classic. We collectively, between Ashley and I, have attended over 10 webinars, 9 conferences throughout 2024 as well.
You can go to the yeah. So we have an upcoming conference planned. If anybody is interested, you can visit our website. The link is here, www.curears.org. It is on February 7th. It is virtual from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern time. And we hope to see some of you there. You can go to the next slide. So we enjoyed hearing all your updates and are looking forward to 2025.
Thank you so much. And we are so excited for all the work that you guys are doing. You're doing amazing work. Next, we have International Mito Patients IMP, Joe DeBry, Director of Development and Operations. Thank you so much for joining us today, Joe.
Thank you so much for having me. I firstly want to say thank you so much to all the speakers as well. It's been so fantastic hearing about all the work that's been doing. So we're really excited to hear the progress being done, particularly in the terms of drug development and drug repurposing as well. For those of you who don't know me, IMP is the international umbrella organisation for many of the Mito patient organisations around the world. And our mission is to increase the quality of life for people with Mito by facilitating cross-border cooperation and collaboration amongst patient organisations. So what do? Well, we host World Mitochondrial Disease Week, which I'm sure most of you or many of you have participated in. This year it falls from the 15th to the 21st of September. Please pop that in your diary. As part of that, we'll be marking TK2D Awareness Day, LHON Awareness Day, and we'll also be celebrating Light Up for Mito on the 20th of September, which is where many buildings and monuments around the world are illuminated in green to raise awareness. We really do encourage everyone affected by Mito to participate in Awareness Week, including people within industry, clinicians, researchers, and in any way involved with Mito. We're starting to work on the campaign for this year, and we'll share details of it over the coming months. And there'll be lots of assets that you can edit and use in your own way. We're involved in lots of projects, and I know time is short, so I will highlight a few briefly. Sympathic is an international consortium which aims to expedite and improve the drug repurposing process. And I know quite a few people who've spoken today have mentioned drug repurposing. I think it's a really exciting, relatively new opportunity for the Mito community. Within Sympathic, there are 9 diseases that are being looked at. Lee syndrome is one of them, and that's where we come in. Through this project, we are preparing for a clinical trial of sildenafil with Lee syndrome patients. And obviously, that's a really exciting and important step forward in finding a meaningful treatment for people with Lees. In addition to the clinical trial, we are also involved in creating a training resource for patient representatives on drug repurposing alongside UPATI. Now, I know if you've been to this a brilliant event before, you probably would have heard me mention the Global Mitochondrial Disease Patient Registry, which is part of the Genomit project. It's a multi-centered dual component registry. The first component is a clinical registry and the second component is the patient registry, and that's where we come in. IMP is leading that alongside our partners, the Lilly Foundation in the UK, Mitocon in Italy, AMI in France, and DGM in Germany. The idea is the patients and carers complete a set of prompts, which will result in a global natural history data set, which will then be matched with a clinical data set when both of those registries are in that same country. I have to admit that in the beginning, I don't think any of us really truly understood the complexities of creating a truly global registry across all mitochondrial diseases. We have run a pilot study which has provided some invaluable insights, and we're using the results of that study to lay some really strong foundations so that the registry is as simple as possible to use for patients and families, and is also future-proof and sustainable. So that project is ongoing at the moment. Other projects that we're involved in include developing a patient journey for primary mitochondrial myopathies, which we hope will help patients and HCPs navigate the long and obviously complex journey to diagnosis. We're involved in establishing a complex and rare epilepsies alliance. We're collaborating on a project called MitoGest, which aims to train the next generation of PhD candidates in Mito, and seeks to increase our understanding of mitochondrial gene expression and developing new methods to treat a range of Mito disorders. We're part of the UK Mito Cohort Oversight Committee, which is a UK-wide database which collects clinical information on patients living with Mito. And our role is to ensure that the international patient voice is considered in all research that applies to that data. We're a stakeholder with the European Medicines Agency, and we're really passionate about ensuring that the patient is heard with that regulatory agency, as we are with all of them. And in fact, I'm consolidating feedback from our members about the impact of TK2D as part of the EMA's exploration of a new therapy at the moment. We also support patients in countries where there isn't currently a patient organisation, and we're really keen to help create new patient organisations. We know there's lots of countries out there that don't have any support set up currently. While IMP is a small organisation, we are able to do so much thanks to the generosity and commitment of our members. MitoAction, UMDF and the Mito Foundation are three of those members that provide staff time and resources to help us achieve our goal, and we are incredibly grateful to them. I also want to take a moment to thank our industry partners for their invaluable support of IMP as well. We really believe that we're at a critical turning point for people affected by Mito. There's more happening than ever before, and it's so exciting to think about what's to come in 2025 and beyond. So I just want to say a massive thank you to all the patient advocacy organisations out there, the researchers, the clinicians, industry, and to you, the patients as well, for all that you do. You're absolutely incredible. If you'd like more information about IMP, please visit our website. It's mitopatients.org, or visit us on social media or email me, and I'll put my email address in the chat. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Jo, and thank you for all the hard work that you do in collaborating so many different organizations across the board. We really appreciate all your hard work and time and effort that you spend with our patient and clinical community. Up next, we have Tisento Therapeutics. We have Chad Glasser, Senior Director of Clinical Research, and we're so excited to have you here, Chad.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thanks to MitoAction for coordinating this event, giving us an opportunity to give an update. My name is Chad Glasser. I'm Senior Director of Clinical Research at Tisento Therapeutics. Last year was actually Tisento's very first town hall update. And since then, I'm happy to say that we've made significant progress towards both building a company and a lead program. If you don't already know, Tisento was founded to prioritize and continue the development of zigosogod in mitochondrial disease. Zigosogod is an oral, once-daily CNS penetrant compound. It targets a signaling pathway that, much like mitochondria, play a central role in the body's dynamic response to changes in energy demands. This pathway is called the nitric oxide pathway and has been shown to be dysregulated in patients with MELAS. In preclinical studies, zigosiguat has been shown to increase ATP levels and to improve neuronal function, blood flow in the brain, and cognition. In a recent phase 2A study, zigosiguat was given to 8 patients with Mees loss for 29 days, and we observed a favorable safety profile, as well as improvements in Mees loss relevant blood and neuroimaging biomarkers. The study that we are now actively recruiting for is called PRISM, and it's spelled PRIZM, not SM, to represent zigosiguat. PRISM is evaluating whether zigosiguat improves fatigue, cognitive impairment, and other key symptoms of Mees loss. These key symptoms that we are assessing and the outcome measures that we selected were chosen based on the results from a recently completed qualitative interview study that aimed to better understand what life with Mees loss is like and what the most frequent and most bothersome symptoms are as reported directly from patients with Mees loss. PRISM is a placebo-controlled study, which means that in addition to zigosiguat, participants will also receive an inactive substance called placebo. PRISM is also blinded, which means that neither the participant nor the study team will know whether placebo or zigosiguat is being given. Arguably, the most defining feature of PRISM is that it is also a crossover study, which was mentioned earlier, with 2 distinct 3-month treatment periods separated by a 1-month period where no study medication is given. That's what's called a washout. Participants will receive a different treatment during each period of the study. The advantages to this approach are twofold. First, all subjects enrolled will receive zigosiguat at some point during the study, either in period 1 or period 2. And second, we will be able to compare within a patient how they are doing on placebo versus how they are doing on zigosiguat. I think we all know that no 2 subjects with Mees loss are exactly alike, so this design eliminates the need to compare the effects of zigosiguat across participants. In terms of who we are looking to enroll, this is currently an adult Mees loss study, so you must be at least 18 years of age. You must also have a mitochondrial DNA mutation. You have to have experienced at least 1 prior stroke-like episode, and you must also have experienced fatigue and cognitive impairment. Other eligibility requirements would need to be discussed with your study doctor. We know that participating in clinical research can seem risky, daunting, potentially an unnecessary burden to take on. So in an effort to hopefully make this study more attractive to patients, we've done a few things. We are providing concierge services to support any and all travel and expenses related to participation. We've implemented weekly at-home assessments of fatigue and cognitive function, so that enables the potential for many of the study visits to also be conducted at home. As I mentioned earlier, the crossover design ensures that all participants will receive active drug at some point during the trial. And finally, we're planning to provide extended access to zigosiguat for those that complete PRISM as part of a separate open label extension study. As I mentioned earlier, PRISM has been initiated across multiple countries and is actively recruiting. We've already been collecting a large amount of screening and baseline data, which has increased our confidence in the outcome measures that we have selected and their ability to assess key symptoms of Mees loss and the impacts of zigosiguat. If you would like to learn more about our program or are considering participating, please visit our website at tisentotx.com. You'll find a high-level summary of our study and a link to our clinicaltrials.gov posting where all the sites are going to be listed, as well as their contact details so you can reach out to the site that's closest to you. I also want to give a quick plug for an upcoming MitoAction expert series that we'll be co-hosting on February 7th with Dr. Amy Goldstein from CHOP, where we hope to demystify clinical trials and discuss the vital role that the patient community plays. Thanks to MitoAction for this event, giving us this opportunity, and thank you all for listening.
Thanks so much, Chad. We are so excited about that expert series. I was going to put a plug in, but you did it for me, which is great because I think we, as a patient community, are super excited to learn more about this trial and hear from Dr. Goldstein as well. So thanks for your willingness to come back and join us in February. And I hope everybody here will go ahead and sign up for that expert series. And thanks again, Chad.
Thank you so much.
Next, we have Hope for PDCD, and with us is Frances Pimentel, CEO and founder. Thanks so much for joining us today, Frances.
Hi, thank you for having me. I don't have any slides or fancy background, but I just thought I would add a quick picture of my daughter Violet as my background so you can see what a cutie she is. As Stephanie mentioned, my name is Frances Pimentel, and I'm the CEO and founder of Hope for PDCD. Thank you again so much for having me today and allowing me to provide updates on what we're doing with our organization. My daughter Violet has a PDHA1 mutation, which causes the mitochondrial disease known as pyruvate dehydrogenase complex deficiency. We founded Hope for PDCD in 2022, along with many other PDCD parents, and we are entirely run by parent volunteers. Similar to Desiree and Ashley, we all work full-time and just do this in our spare time. Violet recently turned 3 years old and is thriving on her ketogenic diet and the small molecule therapy of dichloroacetate. And you can see from her picture from Halloween, she's a very happy little girl and she just spreads joy everywhere she goes. So I'm pleased to announce that we are going into 2025 having reached the $1 million milestone with fundraising just before Christmas. This is going to allow us to continue our mouse model study at University of Texas Southwestern under Dr. Steve Gray for AAV9 gene therapy. We have 2 viable mouse models now, an inducible Cree model and the E75A model. They continue to breed, so we don't have any results yet. At the moment, the inducible Cree male model seems too severe to survive, but the researchers are more hopeful with the E75A model. We've also started looking into ASOs or antisense oligonucleotides for upregulation of PDHA1, and we started this in the private sector instead of academia in the hopes of moving it faster. Last year, we launched a PDCD-specific patient registry on the Cord's Sanford Research platform. We made the strategic decision to link it to Cure Mito's Lee syndrome registry due to a 30% overlap of those diagnoses in our population, which reduces the burden on the patient by allowing them to only fill out one set of general questions and then fill out their disease-specific questions. I have a professional background as a user experience product designer, and so I put a lot of thought into the ease of use for parent caregivers with the questions, considering I'm a parent caregiver myself, and making sure that the questions are specific and relevant to the condition that our children have. Of course, we have some adults with PDCD, but mostly our population is children, and our registry stands at 64 patients enrolled and counting. There are 2 new bills to add PDCD to newborn screening, and those are in Utah and Massachusetts. And the justification for adding PDCD to newborn screening, which most of you probably know, but it's to start the children on the ketogenic diet as soon as possible. We have also successfully advocated to have PDCD added to 2 pilot studies for genetic testing at birth. And those are the Guardian study led by Wendy Chung in New York and Begin NGS at Rady Children's in San Diego. Our priorities for this next year are supporting the PDCD guidelines working group of geneticists and dietitians that Dr. Bedoyan has put together. We hope to fund an in-person standards of care conference for families and researchers and come away with a standards of care document that any family can access as soon as they get a diagnosis. We also hope to expand our funding of a new activity assay that's being led by Dr. Ganetsky at CHOP. We started it last year with some seed funding, but we know that the current activity assay for PDH is going to be discontinued, and we don't want this important research asset to be lost to time. And finally, I mentioned we launched our registry, but we have not evangelized it yet, so we hope to have the bandwidth to do that in 2025. As well as begin to translate it into multiple languages. And that's it for me. Thank you so much for your time.
Frances, thank you so much for your amazing work and sharing the beautiful picture of your daughter behind you. It was a joy to be able to see her on the presentation today. But you guys are doing amazing work with Dr. Bedoyan and Dr. Ganetsky. So thanks for giving us that wonderful update. Next, we have Soul Therapeutics, Dave Pinake, who is CEO. We're so excited to hear from you today.
Well, thanks Thanks, Stephanie. Yeah, we're very excited to give you guys an update on what we've been doing. So we're the most mispronounced name in pharmaceuticals, I think, but Sail Therapeutics, it means life in Gaelic, so it's a Gaelic word. And so we have sailboats everywhere that we have anything on our logo. But it's wonderful to have a chance to speak with all of you. We have been working on going through the clinical program for dichloroacetate to treat PDCD, which Francis just spoke about. And, we're excited to announce that on November 27th, we actually filed for approval with the FDA, where we submitted our NDA application. So we've completed 2 phase 3 studies. One that's a functional study that also measured some biochemical factors, and one that we took the same group of patients and compared them to a natural history cohort to assess survival. And so right now, we're in a really exciting time for the company. It's a big lift from patients, from physicians, from the sites, from the employees of the company in order to do this. So we obviously couldn't have gotten here without the support of the community and the physicians and the patients' families. So thank you all for that. From this point forward, in about a month, the FDA will tell us that they intend to review the application, and we expect that we'll get about a 6-month review. So our hope is that, July of 2025, the first targeted therapy for PDCD will be approved. And the dosing will be done using a specific genetic test that makes sure that its safety profile is really excellent, which is what we saw in the clinical studies. So we're really excited about that. But we're not stopping. We're moving forward on some other things as well. So in about a month, we're going to be submitting an early access program protocol to the FDA. So the FDA will have a chance to review that. And then once that's allowed and our commercial pharmacies are set up, we'll be able to bring patients on to therapy that have PDCD through an early access program at early access program sites. So, stay tuned. There will be more information that'll come from that, but that'll be a really important opportunity for people that are looking for therapy that haven't had the chance to. And we've unfortunately had to turn some people down because of the study had closed by the time they reached the age of 6 months, which was the minimum age to enter the study. So hopefully that'll be helpful to a lot of patients, and we're excited to support that. The second thing is that we continue to support emergency IND programs. So there are patients who have severe problems, typically right around birth. Either they're severely affected with PDCD or other inborn errors in metabolism that cause a mitochondrial issue and result in severe lactate. And so we continue to support those. When those needs are done, the physicians apply directly through the FDA and notify us, and to the extent that we can, they can get approval through the FDA for that, and we can support with medicine. We've been doing that. I believe we have, I think it's 10 patients to date over the course of about the past year that we've been supporting. And then the last thing is the FDA asked us to study a broader group beyond PDCD and patients with severe congenital lactic acidosis of all etiologies. And so we're working with them to identify what a study could look like to do that. And many of these patients are similar to the ones that we've been supporting in the emergency IND program. So, we're letting our filing go through. And then, internally, the team's working hard to prepare for more opportunities to potentially have dichloroacetate used beyond PDCD and potentially help more children. So we're obviously very busy, very excited, and we know that we kind of have the tailwinds of the support of the community behind us. So that's really what we have prepared. But I would say, one, we hope to have the first approved drug for PDCD in July, right? So that's a really exciting thing for us and the community. The second is that we have an early access program. So people who are looking for an option to access a medication ahead of approval, please, follow us. I can put our website up right after this. But those types of things should become available. Look through the MitoAction Pure Mito, hope for PDCD. Obviously, we'll let them know when those things are available. And then finally, we're looking for expansion to study this more broadly, and we're working with the FDA on what a pivotal phase 3 program would look like for that. And we would love to get that started in 2025 if that's feasible.
Thank you so much, Dave. Wow, there's so much going on, and thank you, Sale Therapeutics. I appreciate that, and I love the
Yeah, no
visual
problem.
image too. I mean, that's super helpful. But it's just amazing. It's amazing to see how much progress has been made and what hope it brings to our community. Whether it's with the early access program or this idea that you might be able to broaden the program to look at patients that are maybe have severe lactic acidosis. And so there might be some options for some of our other patients too. So thank you so much for all of your hard work and everything that you're doing at SAIL.
Well, thanks. You know, we keep our heads down. And so opportunities like this are really important for us because, you know, we get a chance to engage with the community and work with all of you. And obviously you guys are doing great work. So anyway, thanks for setting this up. So there is a forum like this that we can communicate that. And, you know, we'll continue to provide updates whenever we have the opportunity to. And you know, we welcome support, feedback, questions from the community so that we can help engage. You know, we know diseases like the ones that we're all talking about are really challenging and they're unique. And so whatever we can do to sort of work with people to make sure that the resources are available when we get approval and the right things happen, that make sure that everyone who wants access can get access. All those things are problems we intend to solve. So really look forward to continuing to work with the community as we approach that.
Thanks again. Thanks again. Next, we have Cure LBSL, and Melody Kaiser, Director of Patient Engagement, is joining us today. Thank you so much, Melody, for joining us and giving us an update.
Thank you, Stephanie, and thank you to everybody. Next slide, please. Thank you. Well, good afternoon. My name is Melody Kaiser, and I'm honored to represent the LBSL community today. It's really amazing to see so many of our partners and collaborators on this call, and 5 minutes is definitely not enough to thank everybody individually or share all of our amazing progress, but I'm going to try really hard to highlight the main updates and exciting activities from last year and talk about some of our big plans for 2025. Next slide, please. Okay, my tongue twister for the morning. LBSL stands for leukoencephalopathy with brainstem and spinal cord involvement and lactate elevation, and is also known as mitochondrial aspartyl tRNA synthetase deficiency. Okay, I got that out. It's an autosomal recessive condition caused by pathogenic variants on the DARS2 gene. This ultra-rare condition is both a mitochondrial disorder and a leukodystrophy. Most typically, LBSL appears as juvenile onset in early childhood, but there's also cases of infantile onset and adult onset. And like many other genetic disorders, earlier onset is associated with a more severe presentation. Frustratingly, there are currently no FDA-approved treatments for LBSL, although we are making progress to fix that. Next slide, please. We've had many scientific and advocacy advances in the past few years, which were highlighted in our biennial LBSL Patient and Scientific Conference at the Kennedy Krieger Institute last summer. We'll also have some LBSL speakers featured at the upcoming Mitochondrial ARS Genes Scientific Symposium with our wonderful colleagues from Cure ARS. Hi, Ashley and Desiree. They already spoke earlier. We will also be featured at the upcoming Global Leukodystrophy Initiative meeting at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And finally, hoping to gather some great minds at ULF this summer and other conferences such as UMDF and other opportunities to get rare disease brains together for collaboration. Next slide, please. So FDA engagement is a top priority for our community. In addition to our patient listening session, which was held in 2023, we've participated in many FDA events and webinars. And it goes without saying, but it was a true honor to sit in support of the BARTH community at their incredible AdCom meeting for elemeprotide this year. Their advocacy efforts were extraordinary, and I was so grateful for the invitation to attend. Our big plans for 2025 include hosting an externally led PFDD meeting on August 1st, 2025. Please save the date. This is going to be a hybrid meeting in Washington, D.C. and also over Zoom. At this meeting, it's our goal to share the unique lived experience of LBSL and help the FDA understand important features of disorder, including the episodic decline and disease acceleration that Dr. McGuire spoke about earlier, specifically with triggers such as infection, fever, hypothermia, head injuries, and puberty. We hope many of you will join us in support as the LBSL community shares patient priorities for future drug development. Next slide, please. Cure LBSL continues to fund and support research on many different fronts, including promising ASO and AAV9 gene therapy that was developed at Kennedy Krieger Institute, as well as fantastic drug repurposing and therapeutic compound research at CHOP and CHOC, excuse me as I twist those. We've also worked with some new groups in 2024, which was really exciting, including the Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard, who helped us with the genetic prevalence study. A bioinformatics program. We had a graduate student from their master's program from Georgetown University who helped us on a genotype-phenotype classification study, and also with Dr. Danielle Boyce for some much needed quality of life research. I know many of you have worked with her. She's a big fan of the rare disease community, and particularly with Cure Mito and other groups that are part of this call today. In 2025, we're launching a wearable fitness tracker program to help capture some more data about sleep and energy concerns in the community. And if you could just click to the final announcement on this slide, please. Separate from the nonprofit Cure LBSL Foundation that I'm part of, the big news is that there's now a parent-led company called Therapeutics created to help accelerate cures and bridge the gap between lab-tested therapies and delivering treatments for LBSL. Michael McGinn's on this call, and he can put his contact information in the chat if you'd like to connect with him about this new company. Next slide, please. Near and dear to my heart, of course, is advocacy. We've poured enormous time and resources into our advocacy work. Our team has attended well over a dozen conferences and countless webinars and trainings, making new connections and bringing back great ideas for the community at every interaction. It's been a true joy to find and create resources that help our families thrive, including some school plans and emergency protocols that were modeled after the MitoAction protocols that were so helpful. We also partnered with Every Cure last year to highlight a child with LBSL in a documentary for Rare Disease Day 2024. And we also unveiled a portrait of a child in the Beyond the Diagnosis collection on LBSL Awareness Day. LBSL Awareness Day is September 20th, which is the intersection of Mitochondrial Awareness Week and Leukodystrophy Awareness Month, since we are both. Next slide, please. We continue to work to spread awareness and garner partnerships for our small but mighty community. I just wanted to thank all of our advocacy and research partners, and especially to MitoAction for inviting us to share with you today. Thank you so much.
Melody, thank you so much for coming. You're an amazing advocate and a true gem, and we're really glad that you were able to come today and share. You're doing so much in the patient community, and for LBSL, it's a tongue twister, so I always have to look down and make sure I get it right. But I really do appreciate all of your hard work and efforts. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mito Canada, and Kate Murray is joining us, the CEO and president of Mito Canada. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Happy New Year, and thank you, Stephanie, for the intro. And thank you to Kyra and the MitoAction team for inviting me to speak at today's town hall meeting. I'm Kate Murray, CEO and president of Mito Canada, and I appreciate the opportunity to share more about our organization and what the next year holds for us. This year is an exciting year for Mito Canada as we celebrate our 15th anniversary. The math is easy here. We were founded in 2010, and our mission was and continues to be to provide hope, education, and support to Canadians affected by mitochondrial disease while driving advancements in research and awareness. We are Canada's only national mito charity, representing the voices of the thousands of Canadians impacted by mitochondrial disease. And our work focuses on 4 key areas. 1, providing essential support to patients and families, helping them navigate the challenges of mito. And we do this in a number of ways. In 2024, we launched Mito Ride. This program provides free access to adapted bikes and trikes to mito kids and teens, lending them the opportunity to discover the joys of riding while building strength and endurance to help manage their mito. We celebrated the 3rd year of our Mito Scholarship Program, which has awarded over $70,000 in post-secondary scholarships to students impacted by mito. And I'd like to take an opportunity to give a shout out to Ultragenyx for supporting this program from its inception. We are tremendously grateful for their support. We launched our French patient contact registry, so our registry is now bilingual. And we built MitoConnect, which is a peer support program that was piloted in 2024. And now in 2025, we're set to launch the program. And this will allow us to connect with Canadians 18 years plus living with Mito, with peer supporters who are trained in the foundational practices of peer support. And we'll continue to expand our new support programs that we founded in 2024. Our second area of focus is education, to educate both the community and healthcare professionals. In 2024, we created and launched several new education resources on a variety of Mito topics. We created education guides, infographics, webinars. We launched Mito in the Classroom, which is a suite of resources for Canadian educators to support children and teens with Mito in the classroom. And we established partnerships with Canadian Mito clinics, supporting specialists with education and support resources that they can provide to their Mito clinic communities. And in 2025, we'll continue expanding our education programs and we'll host patient-focused conferences in 2 provinces in the fall. Our third focus area is to raise awareness. In 2024, we published a new series of Faces of Mito articles. These are lived experience journeys, and each was supported by a dedicated social media campaign, which was highly successful. We launched our Mito Ambassadors program. Our ambassadors are absolute superstars, building relationships and networking at the community level to enhance Mito Canada's support and awareness initiatives. And you can see under the awareness button there, our superstar Hazel, standing outside of council chambers, waiting for her turn to speak to her municipal government about Mito Canada and the work that is being done to advance mitochondrial disease. This year, we're celebrating our 15-year anniversary with several awareness and fundraising initiatives, which will highlight our accomplishments over the last 15 years and how we're going to fuel the next 15. And lastly, our fourth focus area is supporting groundbreaking research. So in 2024, we completed 2 community research studies, one on mitochondrial replacement therapy and the other on mitochondrial transplantation. We supported large-scale mitochondrial transplantation and drug repurposing grant applications, among a number of other grant research applications to advance mitotherapies in care. In 2025, we'll continue to develop community research initiatives, expand our patient registry, and continue to work with industry to bring clinical trials to Canada. We've had a busy 2024, and 2025 will be no exception, except this year we get to eat birthday cake. If you'd like to learn more about Mito Canada's programs and services, you can visit our website at www.mitocanada.org or drop us a line at info@mitocanada.org. Thanks again to Kyra and the MitoAction team for organizing a wonderful town hall and bringing the international Mito community together today. We're all doing exceptional work and should be proud of the combined efforts to support the Mito community. Today is just a testament of our passion and dedication to the cause. So thank you for your time.
Absolutely. And thank you so much, Kate, for joining us and for sharing all that you're doing in Canada and for being willing to be a longstanding collaborator with us. We really appreciate what you're doing and for your presence here today. Next, we have GeneDx, Amanda Baylog, Senior Genetic Counselor, and will be joining us to talk a little bit about what GeneDx is up to.
Hi. Thanks for inviting us today, and we're happy to participate with you guys and to hear what everyone else has been up to. I'm Amanda Baylog. I'm the Assistant Director of the Mitochondrial Testing Program here at GeneDx. And I don't think this comes as a surprise to anyone who's on this call, but broad-based genetic testing like whole exome and genome sequencing has been shown time and time again to be the best testing for patients with suspected mitochondrial disorders. And a timely and accurate diagnosis is one of the most important steps in the patient journey. But having a great diagnostic tool cannot help patients unless they actually have access to that testing. So I'd like to highlight some of our efforts on that front from the last year. At the ASHG meeting this fall, along with the University of Washington, Rotman-Batty Institute for Precision Medicine, Geisinger, and Seattle Children's Hospital, we presented a study of 73,000 children with rare disease testing referred for whole exome sequencing. And we found that the diagnostic yield for those patients, so the percentage of the time that we were able to have a diagnosis for those patients, was the same for patients who were underrepresented minorities versus non-Hispanic white patients. These findings really demonstrate that the disparities that we see in genetic diagnoses across racial and ethnic groups are not due to diagnostic yields, but rather larger systemic and structural barriers, which include things like access to clinicians and cost. So speaking to that cost factor, we continue our advocacy work for insurance coverage of genomic testing for patients. 2015 was actually the first year that any state Medicaid program covered whole exome sequencing, but now programs in over 30 states have coverage for exome and genome sequencing, with 15 states also offering coverage for rapid testing, which is especially important for those patients in the ICU setting. And we continue to expand our partnerships to improve access in other ways. Through our partnership with Biogen and Praxis Precision Medicines and Stoke Therapeutics, we launched our patient access program to increase access for whole exome sequencing for pediatric epilepsy patients, which is especially important as that's a common feature for mitochondrial disorders. And then our partnership with Genome Medical helps connect patients with genetic counselors and genetic testing. And as a genetic counselor, I know how important having access to the actual counseling part of ordering whole exome sequencing is vital to understanding the risks, limitations, and implications of genetic testing. And that access to a genetic counselor is not the same across the United States. And so having patients and linking them up with genetic testing and the counseling part of that is really crucial for them. So this diagnosis, we know that's important for access for treatments, for clinical trials, and we're proud to provide this life-changing test for patients, and we're happy to present here with MitoAction and continue to be part of the Mito community. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Amanda, and thanks for, talking about the challenges of access, because it is a real challenge in our community. And so it's nice to hear what GeneDx is doing, but also to hear that validation, I think, from the patient community. Sometimes you're wondering, am I the only one that's struggling with this? And the answer is no. But we do have people that are working and fighting for access for our patient community, and we just really, really appreciate that. So thank you for the hard work that you're doing. Up next, we have Christine Stanley, Chief Genomics and Compliance Officer, and Cheryl Weiss, VP Marketing for VanMeter. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting us. This has been a very interesting and engaging discussion through MitoAction. And I do echo Amanda in that access is really important here, and also getting that diagnosis is really important. So VanMeter has been doing testing using whole genome sequencing for a decade now. And we have both mitochondrial and nuclear coverage of all the mitochondrial genes. So if you can go to the next slide, I just talk about that getting that access is important and making it easy for the patient to get the testing. So we use whole genome testing as our method platform. We offer flexible options for ordering testing, and we try to really work with the patient and the clinician ordering the testing so that we can make it an easy process, and that we work with them through the whole a part of the process from beginning to end. Our idea is to get everything on one diagnostic report, so there's not a lot of different tests ordered from different places, and having to combine those results into a single kind of answer is often challenging. So we want to try to make it easy with one single report. You can go to the next slide. So when we're looking at genome testing, we do both short read whole genome testing and long read whole genome testing. And we use either, depending on the test that's ordered, as a start with short read and reflex to long read for confirmation of some findings that we might have. And we have tests that look at both long and short read together. So we do 2 genomes for a single patient. And in addition to the standard sequence variants that you can identify with standard genetic testing, we also have software that allows us to look at structural variants, which will be just like big pieces of the gene or a part of the genome that's either taken away or added in. And then variants that are called repetitive, repeat sequence variants, where there's expansions of regions that may cause the gene to be inactive or to behave abnormally. In addition, in our whole genome test, we do the mitochondrial whole genome, and we look for those small sequence changes in the mitochondrial genome, and then any kind of deletions that might be there that are taking out several of the mitochondrial genes. You can go to the next slide. So I just wanted to show some examples of what we see when clinicians order from us and the different types of patients and the different types of findings that we have. So this is a 2-year-old male with bone marrow hypercellularity, abdominal pain, chronic diarrhea, constipation, macrolytic anemia, dermatitis, and we did the testing, and here we found on the mitochondrial genome 3,000 base pair deletion that deletes several genes on the mitochondrial genome. In addition to being able to find the variant, we also show the amount of heteroplasmy, so what percentage of the patient's mitochondrial DNA has this actual change. If you can go to the next slide. So this one's associated with Pearson syndrome. We have another case where we identify a deletion with a smaller percentage of the mitochondrial DNA that's impacted by the deletion. And this is a 19-year-old female with hearing loss, RP, kidney failure, diabetes, short stature, and had failure to thrive all throughout childhood. This is a 2,000 base deletion in the mitochondrial genome that caused mitochondrial DNA deletion syndrome. If you can go to the next slide. This is a 20-year-old male, had epilepsy starting at about age 16, migraines, heart condition, and tremors, and a history of heart and eye surgery. And we found one of the standard changes in the mitochondrial TK gene, which is a small variant of a base pair change, which is in 87% of their mitochondrial DNA, which is associated with MRF. You can go to the next slide. And then another case of a 3-year-old male with encephalopathy, pica, global developmental delay, issues with coordination, hand flapping, repetitive behaviors, and difficulty swallowing. In this case, we also found one of those small sequence changes in the mitochondrial genome, and that's associated with Lee syndrome and NARP. If you go to the next slide. This is a 4-day-old female, so in the NICU period, with hyperbilirubinemia, hyperammonemia, cobalamin deficiency. And here we found in the nuclear genome a variant that is called a stop codon variant, and this was homozygous, and it's associated with methylmalonic aciduria and homocystinuria. And you can go to the next slide. Again, in another case in the nuclear genome that affects the mitochondria. This is a 24-year-old male with exercise-induced rhabdomyolysis, renal failure, respiratory failure, hyperammonemia, elevated CPK. And we found a homozygous variant in the MCCC2 gene, and that's associated with 3-methylcrotynyl-CoA carboxylase 2 deficiency. And then I think there might be one more. So there's a 10-year-old female with seizures, encephalopathy, developmental regression, intellectual disability, autism. And then we found 2 pathogenic variants changes that are in the IVD gene for isovaleric acidemia. And then you can go to the next slide. Yeah, so basically what we see in our lab is all ages, all systems. It's really, really challenging to pick out a single gene or a panel and to look at for this disorder. As you know, it's quite complex and has a lot of different clinical presentation, and really important for that diagnostic piece so that you can move on to the treatments that a lot of people have presented today. So we want to thank MitoAction for including us. And for your work to improve the quality of life for patients with mitochondrial disease.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Christine, and thank you so much for all the hard work that you're doing. I remember years ago you did a presentation with us on how variant on how Variantix works. And it was one of the first presentations that I had saw, and it was amazing. So the work you guys are doing, we really, really appreciate.
Thank you so much.
Next, we have Mary Koenig, Dr. Mary Koenig, joining us to discuss Mitochondrial Medicine Society. Thank you, Dr. Koenig, for being here and for all that you do for our community. We truly love having you.
Thank you, Stephanie. I hope it's okay. I'm going to share my screen real quick. Well, that's maybe the wrong one. Sorry. Okay, let me try sharing the other one real quick. Try that. That's better. But now you can't see me. Okay, so can y'all see my screen?
No. I could for a minute there, momentarily, but then you want to try one more time. It's coming. There you go.
Okay, I think maybe I'm sharing the wrong ones, but you can see them, right?
Yeah, it says Mitochondrial Medicine Society.
It's taking up the whole screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. All right, well, that should work. Okay, so yeah, so I'm the current president of the Mitochondrial Medicine Society, and I am part of a group of physicians who practice here mostly in the US, and we work to take care of patients with mitochondrial disease. If you're not familiar with our organization, I just wanted to let you know who the main physicians are who are part of this. So there's myself here at the University of Texas in Houston. Our secretary is Dr. Gavrilova at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester. And then we have Dr. Scalia at Baylor. We also have an international counselor, Dr. Rahman, who works out of London in the UK. We have an international liaison, Dr. Kara, and then we have a lot of past presidents who are still very active, particularly Dr. Goldstein in Philadelphia, Dr. Parikh in Cleveland, and then several of the other past presidents also are quite involved. So what we do, we really have three things that we work for, which is education, research, and development of guidelines for patient care. So one of the things we work to do is to help, again, develop these guidelines for helping with recognition, diagnosing, and testing primary mitochondrial disease. We write papers. Usually these are collaborative papers. We develop handouts for patients and their caregivers who are just starting their journey. And our website also has links to up-to-date publications to help physicians who are caring for patients with mitochondrial disease. So if anyone out there, has a physician who's looking for resources on mitochondrial disease, what to do, how to care for their patients, our website is a really great resource for that. We also present typically a symposium or a platform at the symposium every year. Our program chair, like I said, is Dr. Scalia at Baylor College of Medicine. This year, we're going to be focusing on hospital and ICU management of mitochondrial patients. We're going to have talks on acidosis, management of stroke, management of seizures, and in particular status epilepticus. And we're going to have a discussion on catastrophic complications of mitochondrial disease and developing recommendations for how to manage these catastrophic complications. I think for physicians, this is something that is very difficult for us. We feel often isolated as individuals when we're presented with patients who are facing these more catastrophic complications and frustrated with a lack of available information on how to treat them. And so we're hoping to try to put everyone's head together and develop some sort of a consensus for what do we do for these patients when they're in these situations. We also have a monthly or almost monthly update that goes out to the physicians that has updates on conferences and online talks and lectures, information with summaries about recent conferences and links to any currently enrolling studies or trials. So if anyone has any information out there that they want to share with the physician community, please feel free to send that along to me and we'd be happy to include it in our monthly update. And again, we're really targeting clinicians here. So we're trying to get information to the clinicians that is pertinent to their care of patients. So if you are aware of anything that might be helpful for patients, we're happy to help distribute that information through this method. So this is just an example of one of our previous updates. And then there's always the CME that's offered as a joint effort through the MMS and the UMDF. And so those CME courses are available for anybody who's looking for those. Here are our websites. This is the Mitochondrial Medicine Society website, mitosoc.org. And then I can't help but mention the Mitochondrial Care Network. So anyone who's looking for a physician or perhaps needs some information on telemedicine visits, if perhaps you don't live close to a mitochondrial care clinic, there are some options for televisits. Through the Mito Network. You can go to the mitonetwork.org website and get information on physicians who have chosen to specialize in mitochondrial disease. And that website provides information on where those clinics are located and how to access physicians through them. So thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to talk a little bit about our organization and our passion for caring for patients with mitochondrial disease.
Dr. Koenig, thank you so much for joining us today. And your passion for the Mito community is very apparent. So we love you very much. And we look forward to continuing to partner with you and your organization.
Thank you.
Up next, we have the Barth Syndrome Foundation, and Shelley Bowen, Director of Family Services and Advocacy, is going to share with us what's been going on in the Barth community. There's been a lot of progress and a lot of work. Thank you so much for joining us, Shelley.
Thank you, Stephanie, and thank you to the MitoAction leadership for inviting me to participate in this very informative meeting. We have had a busy year. There's a lot of things that I can't cover in 5 minutes, but for those of you who are not familiar with Barth syndrome, it's an ultra rare condition that affects about 300 people worldwide. For the time that I have with you today, I'd like to share the highlights from our FDA Advisory Committee meeting. As Katie mentioned earlier on the call, on October the 10th, the Cardiovascular and Renal Drugs Division of the FDA convened an advisory committee for elamipretide as a first targeted treatment for patients with Barth syndrome. This was announced by the FDA on September the 6th. We had to mobilize very quickly. So leading up to that announcement, we knew that it was coming. We began to mobilize our community and reach out to peer advocacy groups such as MitoAction to help us out. We had 42 at the AdCom meeting. We had 42 advocacy members who attended in person, and they all proudly wore their Barth syndrome advocate T-shirts, which distinguished them as advocates and being a part of the group in the audience. Leadership from MitoAction, UMDF, Every Life Foundation, Cure LBDSL were there. Numerous staffers from the congressional offices that we have been working with and built relationships with over the years attended remotely. We had 12 speakers who were there in person, and 3 were remote. 5 were clinicians and 7 were family members. And we were really surprised because nearly 400 people attended remotely. And since the meeting, 5.5 thousand views of the YouTube recording has happened since the meeting. Following our meeting, BioCentury released an article about our AdCom highlighting the importance of the patient's voice in the regulatory process. And I can't say just how important it is. And you'll see in a minute what I'm talking about. Leading up to the meeting, 80 comments were submitted by our community and to the FDA docket. A KOL letter was submitted led by Dr. John Jeffries with 37 signatures encouraging the FDA to approve elamipretide for a treatment for Barth syndrome. 5 letters were submitted from peer advocacy groups, POLG Foundation, Friedreich's Ataxia Research Alliance, Children's Cardiomyopathy Foundation, UMDF, and MitoAction, who have been great partners through this whole process for us. Our community was tasked to be specific as possible about why they wanted access to Lamipritide and why it was important to them or the patients that they were treating. And that was tough because they were only given 4 minutes, and there is no way to plead for the importance of a treatment in such a brief amount of time. But you had to be within those 4 minutes or your microphone was cut. So I'm really proud of the people who did speak because they managed to do this, to speak very eloquently about a very emotional topic, about someone that they loved or on their own behalf. There was no interaction with the advisory committee during this time.
Good morning and welcome.
I'm sorry. There was no interaction with the advisory committee, so we really had no way of knowing what they were thinking, and I can't begin to tell you how brutal that was. So I'd like to thank the MitoAction community for supporting our efforts in such a big way. You have been such a generous partner, and being here with you, you've really amplified our voice, and we appreciate it. And there's so much more that I can say about the AdCom, but I think it's best to really use the rest of my time to share a few highlights from the meeting in this video that I'd like to share with you. So let me see if we can do this and make it work. Just one moment, I'm sorry. It's always technology that gets you. Okay.
Good morning and welcome. 8:15, we will start the meeting. Please step up to the podium and introduce yourself. For the record, you have 4 minutes. You have 4 minutes. You have 4 minutes. You have 4 minutes. At 3 weeks old, I was on life support, and my parents were told I would not survive.
Since 2014, 18% of our U.S. community has died. I am the caregiver for my 3 Mars syndrome sons. My son Robert passed away from the effects of Mars syndrome for 3 years, 9 months. Before his 5th birthday, he suffered a massive stroke, and my beloved son died. I was preparing myself, my family, and my 2 daughters, ages 5 and 1, to lose Belen before he even had a real chance at life. Belen was transported to Children's Nebraska. They told me things were not looking good for my son.
It was almost as if I had a new life, a new body, a new mind.
By having the benefit of this drug, I'm able to live a much fuller and active life.
I can keep up with my peers both work and socially. Eating has been easier, and I can consume more, allowing me to gain weight. Since Declan's discharge, he himself functions like a normal, healthy little boy. His life totally changed. He can play and babysit his nieces and nephew, and he no longer has to use his wheelchair. Since members of the community have been taking Lamipritide, I've seen things for the first time ever. I've seen babies with Bar syndrome hitting their developmental and weight milestones. I'm hearing about adolescents who do not regress during puberty. And I'm seeing adult men who are on Lamipritide who are working full-time jobs. This is something that has never even been a possibility for this community.
Please consider the impact Lamipritide has had on my life. Discontinued use would be devastating to me. Every birth individual deserves this targeted treatment.
In summary,
If someone were to ask me today if I have these symptoms of Barth syndrome, I would say no, I had the symptoms of Barth syndrome.
Please approve Metabolic for our community and use your maximum flexibility in your decision making. And please give us hope. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
I will now read the vote into the record. 10 yeses, 6 no.
Thank you so much, Shelley. Try not to cry. So we really appreciate partnering alongside you guys and all of the amazing efforts that you guys have worked nonstop for the Barth community and all the amazing advocates that came forward to this meeting. And moments like these bring hope to our broader community because it makes us realize that we have a voice, we can make a difference, and it takes a lot to organize, and you were a huge part behind that, organizing things. And so we just really, really appreciate your efforts. We just put in the chat a copy of that video because I think people will want to probably re-see it and also share it with a friend if it's the first time that you're seeing it. We encourage you to continue to share as we move forward. So thanks again, Shelley, for your efforts and all your hard work.
Thank you.
Next, we have Emily Hall, Director of the Siblings Support Project. Thank you so much for joining us today, Emily, and sharing with us the important work of caring for our siblings and this community.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. And wow, that was a hard one to follow. I have to pull myself together. I was getting teary there. That was fantastic. So thanks so much to MitoAction for inviting us to be here today. It's really our honor to be here to talk really briefly about the people who are so often not in the waiting room and who are definitely impacted just as much as parents and individuals, but who we don't always think about, and that is brothers and sisters of children and adults with various support needs. Next slide, please. If you're not familiar with the Sibling Support Project, we are the first national program dedicated entirely to supporting siblings of people with developmental health and mental health concerns. Next slide, please. We do our work in a number of different ways through education. We have a number of books and other ways that we reach out to and connect with media. We'll talk to just about anyone who will listen about the importance of the sibling experience and the value of supporting siblings. We provide direct support to siblings by teaching organizations around the world how to run sib shops, and I'll be talking about those in a moment. Other workshops, we're developing an app for parents to use with preschool age brothers and sisters of children with support needs called Sib Time. And then we also have Facebook groups, really wonderfully warm and reflective and supportive communities of siblings where folks can connect, share their experiences, share information, peer support. It's 24/7 support. So those are really, really incredible opportunities for siblings to connect and get the information they need. Next slide, please. It's really important to talk about why we are so passionate about supporting siblings. I said earlier that siblings are really the folks that we don't always think of first, and I hear time and time again the sibling referred to as the unaffected child, right? And I always sort of stop and question that, because most certainly siblings, brothers and sisters, are affected when there is a family member, when they have a brother or sister who is affected by any kind of diagnosis, including a mitochondrial diagnosis. And so we know that from the research, one of the best reasons to support siblings, one of the most compelling reasons, is that sibling experiences really do parallel parent experiences. So anything we can say about being the parent of a child with a support need, with a diagnosis, we can put ditto marks on for siblings. However, we know that when so many of these amazing organizations that support families, when they talk about family support, oftentimes what they're really talking about is parent support, and rightly so. Parents deserve every ounce of support we can find, and we want to make sure that when we consider family support, that siblings are really recognized as an important part of that family. Next bullet, please. We know that sibling issues are lifespan issues, that brothers and sisters in many cases will be in the lives of the person who is diagnosed longer than anyone, right? Definitely longer than any service provider or doctor or pediatrician, special education teacher, probably longer even than parents in many cases, which is a long, long time. So we want to make sure that we're providing supports to siblings throughout the lifespan and the many roles they'll play. Next bullet, please. We also know that siblings spend over the course of the lifespan a good deal of time together, what I call quantity time. This tends to take place more so in childhood, and then again at the later stages of life for various reasons we don't have time to go into. But if we look at the lifespan as a whole, siblings spend a good deal of time together. They have a high level of involvement with one another. Next bullet, please. That time is not only measured in quantity, but also in quality. And I will tell you that I am a big fan of inclusion and inclusive classrooms if they're supported correctly. That's a whole other webinar. But no classmate in an inclusive classroom will have as great an impact on the social development of a child with support needs than his or her brothers and sisters at home. These are 24/7 social models. And last bullet, please. Last but not least, we know that siblings in many cases really are the next generation of caregivers. Again, we could do a whole day on sibling caregiver experiences, needs, opportunities, but we don't have time today. But I will just say that in many cases, siblings will become the caregivers for and with their brothers and sisters. And we really need to ensure that they're prepared to serve in that role and that they really have a voice and choices along the way to whatever that will look like. Next slide, please. How do we support siblings? Well, one of the main things we do are these nifty things called sib shops. And sib shops are really our answer for the same kind of peer support that parents get from a good parent-to-parent program, except for, as you see in these photos, not that the parents don't have fun. I hope they are having fun in their parent-to-parent programs, but sib shops really revolve around play, because we're working with children. The sib shop model is basically information and peer support for siblings in a highly recreational setting, typically between the ages of 8 and 13. My last slide, I'll have a place you can go to find a sib shop in your community. Hopefully there is one. But we want more and more parents to be aware, and providers to be aware, that there are these opportunities for siblings to receive that same kind of support that parents typically have access to. Next slide, please. We know that sib shops have a lasting impact, and I like to point this out because so many of us are focused on, supporting the child, supporting the individual with a diagnosis, and sometimes we need to think about the lasting impact of other interventions for people within that support network for that person. And the good news here is that when we study sib shops, we see that they really do have a lasting impact. This was from a survey done of adult siblings who had participated in sib shops as kids. Over 90% said that the sib shops had a positive effect on the feelings they had for their siblings and their relationships with their siblings. 67% said that sib shops taught coping strategies to them. 75% reported that sib shops affected their adult lives. And then 94% said that they would recommend sib shops to others. The reason that third bullet is orange is because we like to point out, especially for those of us who are so focused, and rightfully so, on supporting the person with a diagnosis, these adult siblings went on to say that because of their participation and the support they got in SIB shops as children, they felt more ready, willing, and able as adults to support their brothers and sisters. So what that tells us is that siblings aren't the only people who benefit from this kind of support. It's really the entire family, and especially that person with a diagnosis. Next slide, please. Home stretch. I just love this quote from a parent in Chicago who talks about the impact SIB shops have had on their child. She says, having a developmentally atypical sibling can be an alienating experience, rightfully so. SIB shops give siblings a space to process the unique experience they have in common, the deep love and joy for their sibling, as well as the frustrations and other less favorable feelings. It both affirms and normalizes their experiences and builds a community of peers. Could not have said it better myself, Janine. Next slide, please. These are the resources I was talking about. You know, we were so honored to be able to provide a webinar in partnership with MitoAction in 2022. That webinar was about 7 simple strategies for sibling support, for parents, for providers, for anyone who wants to make a positive difference in the lives of siblings. It is still on the MitoAction website, I'm happy to say, and there's the link. You can also go to our website, which is siblingsupport.org, to find a SIB shop in your community. If there isn't one, you can reach out and hopefully start a SIB shop in your community. We partner with organizations all the time on starting sibling supports. We have a number of publications and other resources that are available to you, to your patients, to the families you work with. So thank you again for taking the time to include siblings in today's meeting, which has been really incredible. This is such a beautiful community and so much going on. So thank you so much for having us.
Emily, thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate all that you do and all that you do for siblings as an adult sibling from a different community. It holds a special place in my heart. And I know there's been some questions in the chat about whether or not you guys work with adult siblings too. I don't know if you can touch on that just real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. So our focus primarily is on children, but we do have those Facebook groups for adult siblings, and we partner with another organization, and I'll drop their link in the chat, called the Sibling Leadership Network. They have 26 or 27 state chapters for adult siblings. And again, if there isn't one in your state, they will help you start a chapter. So I'll drop their link in the chat. And then also just for the adults, SibNet, and I can put the link in the chat as well, is a really wonderful resource. We have about 8,000 members in there, and they're just siblings from all walks of life, really sharing their experiences, all kinds of different diagnoses, different ages, different circumstances, but so many common themes and ties that bind us, as siblings who have lost their brothers and sisters. Once a sib, always a sib. We have this expression in our community. Having a sibling with support needs shapes us in so many ways, and our doors are always open to all of those siblings. So, and I will look at the other questions in the chat, and I'm happy to connect. I'll put my email in the chat. I'm always happy to connect. I think siblings is such a common denominator for so many of us in this field doing this work, that it's always a real honor to be included in meetings like today.
And Alex has wonderfully taken a lot of the last slide that you saw and the links, as she's putting it in the chat. So if you want to click on some of those, just know that that's there and available. Thank you so much, Emily, and all that you're doing. We are in the home stretch, guys. I know this has been an amazing and yet long meeting. We really appreciate it's truly amazing how many people have kind of stuck along and run this marathon with us. And so we're so glad that you're still here. We just have a couple items left to talk about. Very important. So thanks for sticking on with us. This is actually our slot. So this is our time just to talk a little bit about MitoAction and what we do. As you heard at the beginning of this program, my name is Stephanie Harry. I'm one of the patient support coordinators at MitoAction. And my role generally is my primary role is to run our Mito 411 patient support line, where you or clinicians can call in at any time if you need information. The support line for patients is really just a space that we can provide a listening ear for those in our community that need a space to listen or have questions. This diagnostic journey can be long and challenging at times, and so sometimes you just need a friendly voice in the other line to process things with, or maybe you're looking for a Mito doc and you just need an extra moment to kind of talk through that or figure out what the resources are. We can help with that. So that's one of the things that I do. Or maybe you're a clinician, a PCP who has heard of mitochondrial disease and are trying to figure out how to get better connected in the community. And so we help out with that too. So that's our Mito 411 support line. But there's a bunch of other programs that we offer too that I want to make sure that everyone here is aware of. First of all, I want to make sure that people are aware of our different support groups that we host. So every Friday at 12 noon, we host our main support call. Of course, not this Friday because we're doing the town hall, but every Friday, whether it's an expert series, and our expert series day gets bumped back to 1 o'clock. And a lot of times we can go in and talk about the expert series after it happens. So we would love to see patients out on that. It's a great collaborative space. And I always tell those who attend that it is about the collective wisdom of the group. And so those spaces are really spaces to share our collective wisdom and share our love and hope with each other. We have the Friday support call. We also host a monthly CPEO and me support call led by one of our volunteers at MitoAction. And we have our men's support call group and our young adult support call group and our FAAD support call group. And all of those are monthly. So you'll see something in the chat. So if you're interested in the support calls, you can go there and just kind of see what the timeline for those are. Outside of our support groups, we also have our Mito Champion program. Our Mito Champion program is a collaborative space where volunteers come together to share ideas, work on a variety of projects together, and try to support each other through a variety of different advocacy work in our own communities and our family community. So these, if you're interested in becoming a Mito Champion and would like to learn more about that program, please feel free to reach out to me directly at sharry@mitoaction.org, and I can share a little bit more about that program. This month is a little bit different, and during our regular Mito Champion space, Ted Tufus is going to actually join us, and so we're kind of opening the window to anyone who'd want to come. This week it's going to be next Wednesday, and Ted Tufus is going to join us for a roundtable discussion and talk a little bit about compounding pharmacy. And you can come, and it's going to be casual, and you can bring your questions. So I just encourage you, whether you are a current Mito Champion or not, that you come and join us next Wednesday. I think it's at 7 p.m. during that time. So outside of Mito Champions, we also have something called, well, actually every year we host, we've had our second annual art show. So that's something that's kind of new, but super exciting. And so I just kind of wanted to mention it in this space. If you haven't had a chance to check out our art show yet, there is a link in the chat that's gonna share that as well. Our art show is open to all of our Mito families. So if you have artwork that you would like to share next year, it's every November, and and typically the deadline is in October. And I just encourage you to go online and take a peek at this year's art show. It's filled with hope and understanding, and it's a great place for our Mito families just to express the things that sometimes are hard to be expressed outside of art. And kind of in line with that, we work with Christine Knox, who is a Mito patient in Canada, who is an artist, and she has beautiful work in pencil crowns. And so we've established something called our Mito Artisans Playtime. And that is a special space for people to come. And it doesn't matter your art ability. If you're a new budding artist, if you're just somebody that loves to look at art or enjoy art, we encourage you to come out to that. That occurs every couple months. And Christine has kind of led us in a variety of different projects, but we're hoping also to expand that time to other mediums. And Christine is helping us with that. So if you're interested in that, please don't hesitate to reach out to us on that. So, okay, a couple more things, and then I'm going to turn it over to Emily. We also host something called our Expert Series. And the lovely thing about our Expert Series is we are able to engage with clinicians all over the world in regards to the work that they are doing in the area of mitochondrial disease. And we also sometimes bring in our Expert Series, we bring in conversations that maybe we've had a lot in support group and the patients want greater understanding about. And so it's a wonderful idea. If you haven't checked out our Expert Series, it's something we do once a month, typically the first Friday of the month at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, but it's also recorded. So if you miss that time, don't hesitate to go back out and look, or if you have ideas of a topic that you'd like to see, we hope that you will email us and let us know. Our podcast series is run by Marcy Young. She is an amazing Mito champion who takes a lot of time to share stories of others in our Mito community. And this can be with those who have form of mitochondrial disease, but also with our clinicians or people that are amazing resources in our community. So we just encourage you to take a look at those podcasts, or if you have a story to share, don't hesitate to reach out to us so we can connect you with Marcy to share your story. Two more items. Wondering Wednesdays is a program that is that occurs the last Wednesday of every month, or the fourth Wednesday. Occasionally there's a fifth Wednesday in there, so be prepared. But it's the fourth Wednesday of every month, and genetic counselor Devin Schumann helps lead this time. She's an amazing genetic counselor that is really good at breaking down hard questions into bite-sized pieces. And so no matter where you're at with your Mito journey, or if you're a genetic counselor in training, or if you're a pre-med student and you're interested in genetic counseling, we encourage you to hop on those calls and to take time to learn and listen and ask your genetic questions. Those recordings are or those sessions are not recorded, and in order to protect privacy of patients. So it is one of those things that you have to be there to come and see, and we hope to see you there. I think it's in 2 weeks is the fourth Wednesday of the month. We hope to see you soon. Last but not least, Kyra mentioned at the beginning of this meeting our FAOD conference, which is July 25th through 27th. This is geared towards our FAOD families, and it will be in Detroit again this year. And it's a lovely place that clinicians and geneticists gather from all over the US to continue to educate families on issues of FAODs, but it's also a space that families can connect and share their journeys and stories with clinicians, and for patients just to connect with each other, to know that they're not alone on this journey. And we have some amazing speakers lined up again this year. Dr. Melanie Gillingham, Dr. Vockley, Dr. Gold, Dr. Pritchard, Dr. Baker. So you definitely want to come and onto our website and see who we have lined up for this year. It's going to be another great session. And also, just to kind of put a plug into, we also host occasionally in the evenings FAOD specific expert series just for our FAOD community. So you want to keep a lookout for that as well. I think I covered it all with the exception of Marshall's Way. So Marshall's Way is a program for medical expenses. Medical expenses, we know in our patient community, are astronomical, and sometimes you just need a little extra boost. And so if you're having trouble financially and have a diagnosed form of mitochondrial disease, we encourage you to check out our Marshall's Way program, or feel free to email me to learn more about that and how we can help in that way. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the baton over to Emily, and she's going to share a little bit more.
Thanks, Steph. For those who don't know me, I'm Emily Grandel. I'm the marketing coordinator here at MitoAction. So I just want to touch on a few of the other programs that Steph and Kyra haven't covered yet. First, I want to share about the My Mito app. So this is our app platform that we've designed with Care3 specifically for the mitochondrial disease community. This app allows patients and caregivers to manage their day-to-day with Mito. We currently have 3 versions of the app. We have the Mito, FAOD, and TK2D versions. So depending on your diagnosis, you can choose which version of the app you'd like to download. Within the Mito version of the app, we also have our diversity, equity, and inclusion study community, which I will touch on in just a minute. But this app simplifies the complexities of your day-to-day tracking in life with Mito by giving you the ability to track symptoms and events. You can set reminders for medications, You can set appointment reminders. You can chat with your care team as well as chatting with everyone else in the Mito community. In the past year, we have seen a huge growth in the number of users on the Mito platform. And as we look ahead this year, we're excited to add some new features, enhancing the app and making it more user-friendly, and building off of the recent updates we've made in terms of user personalization. We're really looking to get users as unique of an experience as possible for whatever caters to them. So as mentioned before, we are currently working on a diversity, equity, and inclusion study with the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. So this study, we are aiming to gain a better understanding of how mitochondrial disease affects patients and families of color. Through this research we're doing with the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, we are highlighting disparities in diagnosis, healthcare, and other resources that come along your journey. And by addressing these gaps, we're aiming to create a more inclusive and equitable future in our community, not just the Mito community, but all of rare diseases. So we will be using this community within the app to share surveys, have conversations, and really just unpack some of these questions we're aiming to answer and gain feedback from the community. So in the coming year, we're looking to grow that community in order to receive more feedback. The next program I wanted to touch on is the Dahlia's Wish program, which is one of our most heartfelt and impactful initiatives. This program grants meaningful wish trips to kids with Mito, allowing them and their families to spend a week at Give Kids the World Village at Disney. These trips are just so amazing in, getting the families and the patients away from all the stress and the chaos for a week and giving them a week to create memories, to take a vacation they might have not have been able to do otherwise. This past year, we sent a family back in the fall. We've granted a few more wish trips, and we are excited to send a few more families this spring. As we move forward, we are very excited to expand the program and see how many families we can send next year, just to give them a week away. Give Kids the World Village, if you haven't seen it, it's a magical place. It's all accessible, so it's a really great place for our Mito kids to go with their families. A similar program we have is the Matthew Hardy Camper Fund and Scholarship. This program allows us to send Mito kids to a week at summer camp, which allows them to make new friendships, kind of thrive on this newfound sense of adventure that they don't get every day at home, whether they're home or at school or in their day-to-day life with Mito. Throughout this program, we also offer scholarships to students with Mito who are pursuing higher education. We're excited to share that last year we granted 13 new scholarships to Mito students, as well as 2 scholarships to students from North Andover High School, which is where Matthew would have gone to high school and where all of his siblings graduated from. In 2025, we are excited to continue raising funds through many of our Matthew Hardy Camper Fund events. We have a golf outing, we have street hockey games, we have a bunch of events in the North Andover community. So we're looking forward to raising more money through those to help us send even more kids to camp and more students to college this year. Another event I want to touch on is our energy walks. The energy walks were huge for us this year. We expanded from our previous 3 locations, which is Boston, Syracuse, New York, and Rochester, New York. We added Hartford, Connecticut, and Riverside, California this year. So that was amazing. We had a huge growth in overall attendees, fundraising, and all of that. These walks are just so much fun. If any of you have ever been to them, it's just a fun time. We get together, spreading awareness. There's raffles, there's games. It's a lot of fun. So we're looking forward to this year and seeing if we can build off of the momentum we had last year and add a few new cities. So if anyone is either interested or knows anyone that is interested somewhere other than those 5 cities we already mentioned, we would love to grow and we'd love to talk to you about hosting a walk together. I will add links and all of that to all of these programs I just touched on in the chat, along with all of Stephanie's links. But again, I just wanted to reiterate that we are so thankful you guys are all here today. We've heard so many amazing presentations. But yeah, I just wanted to share on some of those other programs that are close to me. So I will now pass it back off to Steph, who will pass it off to the Mito Foundation.
Thanks so much, Emily. And thank you so much, Toni, Katan. I know that it's hard. It's hard to be one of the last organizations, and you have waited your turn for so long. So thank you so much for waiting out with us and for all the information you're about to share. Thank you so much for joining us from the Mito Foundation.
Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to wait. It's been really amazing to listen to everyone. Appreciate. I'm in between Kyra wrapping up, so I'll keep it as brief as possible. I think the reason why I'm the last on the list and very grateful for being is because it's still before 7 a.m. on Saturday morning in Australia, where I'm based. So was only able to capture a little bit of the previous and very keen to look at the recording. Thank you so much for the opportunity. So Mito Foundation, we are based in Sydney, Australia, and we support people impacted by Mito across Australia. We've been around since 2009. We focus on raising awareness and improving outcomes through funding research, driving policy and advocacy change, educating and providing support to people impacted by Mito. In 2024, we've had a lot happen. It's been really great to reflect. We've been really focusing on better understanding the needs of the Mito community in Australia and how we can help improve health and quality of life outcomes. We completed an economic study which calculated for the first time the economic costs of Mito in Australia, which came out at just over $1 billion, which is absolutely staggering. So we're now advocating across 4 areas to reduce this cost and improve the outcomes for people. With Mito, the 4 areas are diagnosis, prevention, healthcare, and research, which will probably be no surprise to anyone on this call. The outcomes have linked to quite a lot of work that we're doing as an organisation, as well as advocating beyond. We launched a project called Mito Stories, which focuses on 2 topics, seeking the experiences of Mito community members as part of a formalised research project, which required ethics approval. And the 2 topics we've started with are the Mito community's experiences with healthcare and the Mito community's disability support needs and experience with the Australian Disability Scheme, the National Disability Insurance Scheme. So we've conducted interviews with Mito community members and also recruited for the advocacy group, which has 6 members made up of community members and researchers. And that feedback is really going to help us drive in advocacy, support, and research. We formed a dietary supplements advisory group, which is one of the areas that the community has told us is a real challenge. And we've got a number of Australia's top Mito specialists on that advisory group, exploring what information and evidence we have around supplements. And we've published an initial report around the challenges faced by Australians living with Mito, and expecting more to come out of that as we work through those findings. We submitted a parliamentary inquiry into diabetes, another topic our community has told us is really important. And this is really focused on the need for people with Mito-related diabetes to receive subsidies to access continuous glucose monitoring, which is currently an issue. And then a big focus of us that started last year and is continuing into 2025 is our focus on increasing clinical trial activity for Mito in Australia, and trying to attract clinical trials to Australia and trying to connect community to those trials and get early access to treatment and drive new treatments. So we've had a range of community consultation activities so far, and developing an action plan, which we will launch in the next few months. Continuing on a research perspective, we funded our first clinical fellowship for an allied healthcare professional, a physiotherapist, and they are working on a project to improve information and guidance around physiotherapy management. The project that they're working on includes a home-based exercise trial and the development of information resources for physiotherapists and for people with Mito, which will come out in mid-2025. It's not necessarily, there's a lot of information around there, so one of their roles is to help consolidate that and make it as easy as possible for people to understand and use. We sponsored and helped organise our 8th AussieMIT conference, which is the scientific conference that we hold biannually. It was held in Melbourne over 4 days. People coming from international. We had 184 delegates from 8 countries. And Mito Foundation led a clinical day, which was focusing on connecting Mito specialist researchers and community members. Alongside that event, we had held our 3rd annual Mito Community Summit, which really aims to foster opportunities for community members to learn, connect, and collaborate. And because it was linked to AussieMIT, we were able to involve a range of local and international researchers and clinicians in that event, sharing their knowledge about Mito and creating a stronger sense of community and hope. In that, both the AussieMIT and the Community Summit, we had updates from the Mito Hope team, who are running the mitochondrial donation pilot. So the focus recently has been to train embryologists in mitochondrial donation techniques on mice eggs, and they're hoping to start the clinical trial in the second half of 2025. And to make all of that possible, we ran 11 bloody long walk events, very Australianism, perhaps similar to energy walks, 35-kilometre walks across 11 locations. We had 16,000 people participate and raised almost $3 million. In 2025, we're going to run another 11 bloody long walks, trying to raise a similar amount of money. And from the Mito Project's Mito Stories project, we will publish reports related to those 2 topics around healthcare and disability supports. We're going out with targeted research calls. We're going to continue our focus on attracting clinical trials to Australia and community engagement and research. We're going to support engagement of people into the Mito Hope mitochondrial donation clinical trial as they open recruitment. We're going to focus on allied health professional education. And we're going to see if we can reach more men, young adults, and people from CALD communities, particularly around support and information. We see those groups underrepresented in the people that access us regularly. And we've got to focus on mental health and Mito information and support, and looking at what we offer, what is available in the Australian environment and beyond, and what is what we want to give access to for our community. And we'll hold another Mito Community Summit and hopefully get as many Australians involved and light up for Mito as part of WMDW as possible. If anyone wants to know more, please visit us at mito.org.au or email info@mito.org.au. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and such a privilege to be part of today.
Thank you so much, Toni, and thank you for all the amazing work that you guys are doing in Australia. We really appreciate all of your efforts, and you're really covering a lot of ground and covering a lot of bases. So thank you so much. Last but not least, we are going to introduce Magnus Hansen, CMO and VP Preclinical and Clinical Development from Oblivia. And we just really, really appreciate you and for being here with us and for holding down the fort for so long. And thanks so much.
Thank you, Stephanie. And thanks to the entire MitoAction team for including us in this Mito Town update meeting. So it's great to hear all the updates and really inspiring. So I just want to briefly highlight some recent news and developments from our side, which I think is really exciting. So our mission at Oblivia is to develop new treatments for mitochondrial disease, and our lead program is for a compound called KL1333. And this program is now in a late-stage clinical study called the Falcon study. And during 2024, we had an interim analysis in this study, and that analysis was successful. So an interim analysis is kind of a halfway check to see if everything is on track, and it was. So specifically, we saw, or an independent data monitoring committee evaluated the data and saw that the compound was safe and that there were signals of a treatment effect. It passed the so-called futility analysis for both of the study's primary endpoints. The second news for the program is that another company called Pharming has made a public offer to our current shareholders to acquire Oblivia and the KL1333 program. So Pharming is a bigger company than Oblivia. So if this goes through, we believe this will actually be a good fit for the program and add more resources to it so we can develop it efficiently to completion. And last news, it's not on the slide, but we had our first patient data with KL1333. It was published in this January issue of the journal Brain. And I think you can find the link here in the chat to the paper, and it's open access. If we move to the next slide, just wanted to explain a little bit what the ongoing study called the Falcon study is about. So this is a study in adults with mitochondrial disease. It's a placebo-controlled study, and the treatment is for almost a year. This means that some will randomly receive the tablets with KL1333 and some visually identical tablet, but without the active compound. And no one will, of course, know which one is which until the study has been fully completed. So specifically, this study recruits people with mitochondrial disease caused by mutations in the mitochondrial DNA. And patients have to have symptoms of fatigue and myopathy, and that's what the study is focusing on. So the first set of patients were recruited during 2023 and 2024 at 18 sites in 6 countries. And we are now, after the successful interim analysis, expanding the study to about 40 sites, of which we think about 10 will be in the US. So we expect recruitment to restart now during the first half of 2025. So if you're interested, keep your eyes open for the study and feel free to contact me. There's also a link to our webpage with more information of the study. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Magnus. This is really exciting news, and I'm really excited too to hear about the expansion of the studies and what that's going to mean for our patient community. So without further ado, I think we're going to do closing remarks. And Kyra, I was going to go ahead and do those, but if I see your face, so maybe you want to go ahead and do those.
I'm good. Thank you, Stephanie. We did it, guys. It's been a long day, and we appreciate you all sticking with us through the program. So I just want to give a huge thank you to all of our esteemed guest speakers, our dedicated MitoAction team, and to each of you who joined us today for this inspiring gathering. Today, we've celebrated the milestones we've reached, the partnerships we've forged, and the resilience that defines our Mito community. Today's discussion has been a powerful reminder of the unwavering commitment driving progress for patients and families impacted by mitochondrial disease. From breakthroughs in research to the compassionate care extended every day, our shared mission continues to illuminate the path forward. I often remind our community that somewhere at this very moment, a scientist, researcher, or advocate is working tirelessly to unlock answers and move us closer to treatments and one day a cure. That same spirit of hope, fueled by determination and collaboration, connects us all. To every family member, patient, and caregiver, please remember that you are not alone. MitoAction, along with everyone on this call, stands beside you 24/7 as your partner, advocate, and steadfast supporter. Together we're stronger, and together we will overcome every obstacle on this journey. To my small but mighty team at MitoAction, I'm beyond grateful to each of you for helping make today possible and your giant hearts that continue to support the families who need us most. Here's to the limitless possibilities of 2025. May it be a year of innovation, connection, and hope, a year in which we continue to make incredible strides for our Mito community. Thank you for your time, your dedication, and your belief in the work we do together. Wishing you an extraordinary year ahead, and we look forward to staying connected with each of you as we move forward hand in hand. Thank you, everyone.